Welcome. I'm going to do a quick intro just for the benefit of the people in the room and online. And then we're going to welcome Pastor Emmanuel Akilaja, who is the senior pastor here at Kingswood Church London, to do a short intro about the vision for S.A.B.U and why God has placed this on his heart. Before we do that, just a quick note that we're not expecting any fire alarms in the room this morning. So if you do hear any noises or sounds, please make your way to the clearly marked exits in the room. For those on Zoom, please ensure that your microphone stays on mute and keep the background noise to the absolute minimum. Also try and limit distractions whilst you're online so that you can get the best of the session this morning. I'm delighted to be joined this morning by Dr. Onya Idoko, Benga Adebi, and Nicholas Agunde, and myself. So we will introduce the speakers in turn this morning. S.A.B.U is an event that was created to share knowledge, experience, and best practice for students studying master's and postgraduate studies here in the UK. And as we all know, a UK postgraduate degree is held in high regard by employers across the globe. This is the 6th iteration of S.A.B.U that we're hosting at Kingswood London. And I'm delighted this morning to invite Pastor Emmanuel Akilaja to come up and talk a bit about the vision for S.A.B.U and why God has laid this on his heart and what God proposes to do in this season with this meeting. God bless you. Okay, we're just waiting for Pastor Emmanuel to get mic'd up. All right, I think he's here now.
Thank you very much, Taiwo, and good morning, everyone here and everyone that is joining us online. Like Taiwo says, this is S.A.B.U Succeeding at and Beyond University number 6. And I remember that 16, almost 17 years ago, I came to the United Kingdom as a student. And I remember how much of a shock the educational system was to me in the United Kingdom, very different from what I was used to, what I experienced, some of the challenges that I faced as a student. And I remember that I was able to connect with some of the individuals who were studying the same courses that I was doing, because I had a January start in my university, so some students had started their own courses in September. And I was able to just grab some of these students and say, you know, how are you guys navigating this whole educational piece? And they were able to guide me and talk me through, you know, some of the differences or similarities between the educational system I had grown up with back in Nigeria and, you know, the expectations for us here in the United Kingdom. And with their support, I was able to navigate so many things in the higher education sector and eventually finish my master's with a merit in human resource management. And like I said, this is almost 17 years ago now. And I remember that in 2020, 2021, when the UK government said that they were going to open up the education sector a lot more by introducing or reintroducing the post-study work visa, what we call the graduate visa today. At the time, I thought lots of people are going to come into the UK and they're going to face the similar challenges that I faced, you know, so many years ago. And I thought if there was, you know, a seminar, if there was a meeting where we could all get together and just talk about how you succeed as a student who has come to study a postgraduate degree in the United Kingdom, and then also, very importantly, not just getting good grades in uni, but also transitioning into the workplace, it will make a world of difference for people in the UK. I remember when I arrived into the United Kingdom, you know, I went to stay with my sister, and as we walked into her house, my sister turned to me and said, look, you're not allowed to take, you know, any kind of job. You know, you have to find an office job. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll find an office job. Fortunate enough not to have to pay accommodation bills or all these other bills because, you know, she was going to take care of those things. But she was like, you need to find an office job. So from day one, I was looking for an office job. And I was able to get one while I was studying my master's degree. And that really helped me to transition from doing the master's to then getting a proper job in the field where I'd been studying my master's. And I was like, there are some of these insights, some of these tips that people need to know while they are studying. It's like there's a way to get those really good grades. And I found that in the United Kingdom, it's really easy. If you know what to do, it's really easy to get those really good grades. And then there's a way to transition into the workplace if you know what to do, because sometimes people feel like their background, their other educational background or racial or a country background is a limitation for them to make that transition, but it really isn't. If you know what to do and how to navigate the context and the environment in which you are operating, you can be successful at doing those things. And so I said, okay, can we just get a few people together who have made that transition from studying in the United Kingdom to walking into the United Kingdom, and just invite as many people as would like to come to be a part of that session. And then we're just going to share with them. We are not coming to talk out of textbooks. We are coming to just talk about things that we have done, we have experienced, and then hopefully we can help people kind of make that transition as well to succeed in their degrees, but also to make that transition into the workplace. Because, like I say to the panelists, when I did the maths for people who are coming to study master's degrees here from Nigeria on their own, now this is not with family and friends, just you coming, you can potentially spend 30 to 40 million naira just coming to the United Kingdom to study a master's degree. And I'm like, if you are going to come and spend that type of money, you need to make the best. The return on investment needs to be huge, because that's a massive investment to spend in getting a degree. There needs to be something you can take home, post the degree. And that's why we said, look, what is it that we can do to help people along this journey? And so we did the first one, and boy, the feedback even blew us away, because I don't think we were expecting, I don't know what we were looking forward to really, but the feedback was so good. People were so happy that they were fortunate enough to attend the session. I knew that while we were even in the session, people were inviting their friends and their classmates to join the session, while the session was going on, because they felt that, the richness of the content was so good, other people had to get in on the session. And like we said, we've done 5 so far. They've mostly been online. So the first 5, we did them completely online on Zoom and shared it to YouTube. But this is the first time we said, okay, let's even try, this is like post-COVID. Let's try and get people together into the room, and let's run the session from the venue here. And we know that some people are joining us from outside London as well, and some people are on the way. And so there's a lot that we expect to get out of this session. There's a lot that, people are going to take when it comes to succeeding academically, because we know that distinctions are not far-fetched. A lot of people here have achieved distinctions, and you should go for a distinction. But equally, while you are putting all the things in place to get your distinction, also put 1 or 2 things in place to make sure that you've laid the foundation to transition from studying into working, and working successfully in the UK. And if your intention is to stay, well, there's also things you need to put in place to make that transition as well. So the panelists, like I said, are people who have been through this journey themselves and are going to be sharing with you how to go through that journey, but also other things that you can do, to do a wonderful job, of maximizing your opportunity here as students or graduates, or those who may even be considering taking a master's or a first degree or further study in the United Kingdom. So please, take notes. We're going to have break sessions where you're going to have opportunities to network with people, and then we're going to have a Q&A session at the end. I'm sure our convener will tell us a lot more about this, but it's going to be a great day. Like I said, we always have really good feedback, and I'm sure that at the end of today's session, it will even be better, because it can only get better. Thank you very much, everyone. Welcome once again to S.A.B.U 6.0, and I'm going to hand over back to our convener, Taiwo. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Pastor Emi. Can we give him a round of applause? Thank you so much for that scene setting. Okay, let's get into the sort of bulk of why we're here this morning. So my name is Taiwo Oyekun. I'm currently a director of operating model change at a market data services startup headquartered in New York. And currently I report to the Chief Customer Success Officer, the CCSO. And I have full oversight of the change and transformation portfolio and I support in the delivery of the organization, of the firm's strategic objectives and core policies. Prior to that, I've held a number of senior roles within financial services here in the UK, including the Executive Director of Operations and Consulting at Daylight, Head of Culture and Communications for the Group Financial Crime Hub at NatWest, and 12 plus years preceding that in several change and transformation roles across both the public and private sectors, including roles at the BBC, Transport for London, Legal and General, AIG, amongst a number of other organizations. So that's a bit about myself. I will be anchoring the session this morning, and I'm going to bring up our first speaker. Dr. Onya Idoko is the program leader of the MSc Prosperity, Innovation and Entrepreneurship program at University College London, the Institute for Global Prosperity. Dr. Idoko was previously a research associate at Imperial College Business School and lecturer at the University of Huddersfield Business School. She has a PhD from the University of Edinburgh Business School. Her research interests lie at the intersection of organizational creativity and innovation and entrepreneurship studies. She's interested in the emergence of novelty, particularly within constrained settings such as a crisis. Dr. Idoko hosts a podcast called Life of Pi, Prosperity, Innovation and Entrepreneurship, an original podcast from UCL, Institute for Global Prosperity. The Life of Pi is starting a different kind of conversation with researchers, practitioners and entrepreneurs doing cutting-edge work and rethinking entrepreneurship in new ways. In each episode, you hear the host, Dr. Idoko, speaking to guests focused on redefining the idea of entrepreneurship to address the root causes of economic, environmental, and social problems in order to achieve long-term structural transformations. S.A.B.U 6.0, please welcome Dr. Onya Idoko.
Thank you very much, Taiwo. Morning, everyone. Sorry, I'm old-fashioned. Taiwo has an iPad. I have a notebook. I'm just going to set my timer so that I won't run over time. Or, Benga, would you be kind enough to signal when I have 5 more minutes left? Thank you. So I'm excited to talk to you today about achieving success in your academics, in your studies. And of all of the panel members, I will focus more on the academic side of things, and my colleagues will talk more about the beyond university aspect of it. What I will talk about today is, I'll do a quick introduction. I'll talk about attitudes and habits that will help you succeed in your studies. I'll touch on teaching and learning, and I'll talk about modules and delivery, engagement and participation, and I'll end with how you approach your assessments and how you what you do with the feedback that your module tutors give you. So I will be speaking from the perspective that most people are here to study a master's. So I lead a master's program, so I'll talk more from that perspective. And I'm happy to answer questions about a PhD if there are any questions along those lines. Taiwo did a quick intro. I'm going to whiz through this slide. I'm program leader for MSc Pi, and I host a podcast, which is Life of Pi. I co-host with one of our former students, or our alumni, a fellow Pi student, and we focus on conversations around entrepreneurship and how we're rethinking entrepreneurship and the purpose of entrepreneurship for society, for the environment. I also do some consulting, mainly in innovation within higher education and in the area of business modeling, and I do speaking, as I'm doing in front of you now. So I want to start off, as Pastor Amy said, this is the 6th version of S.A.B.U, and in previous versions, I tended to jump into the classroom work, what you should do to succeed, how you should write your essays, etc. But I also, while thinking about what I want to share today, I was thinking what would be most helpful in addition to, so it's one thing to write the essays, submit the essays, But then if you don't have the right mindset, you don't have the right attitude and habits, anything else I tell you is just going to land flat. It doesn't really matter, whatever I tell you. So I'm going to start off with some key habits and attitudes. And what I want to do is I want to ask you, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to get out of the master's or your studies if you're doing a PhD? Let's start with that. What's your vision? Because your vision will constrain you. Your vision will help you exercise self-control, and it will help you say yes to certain things and no to other things because you know where you're going. And one great analogy that I love is our maps. I love maps. And one thing that I like is I want to illustrate this whole idea of vision. Right now, we're at Charlton. But if we wanted to go from Charlton to London City Airport, so I've circled all of the key locations I want us to focus on. If we want to go from Charlton to London City Airport, if a friend of yours, imagine you're right outside the building right now, and I'm going to pick on Muna. And Muna is outside. She's got a small suitcase. She's going to London City Airport. And Pastor Emi comes by with his car. And he says, hey, Muna, let me give you a ride. And he says, I'm going to the Tower of London. Get in. If Muna gets into that car with Pastor Emi and they're moving, they're making progress, is she going to get to her destination, which is London City Airport? No. The truth is that if you don't start with where you're trying to get to, then any result you find, you'll take it because you didn't even know what you were trying to achieve in the first place. And this was something that I did when I came to the UK to do my master's. Before I left Nigeria, I'm Nigerian. Before I left Nigeria, I already knew that I was coming to get a distinction. I wasn't coming to get a merit. I wasn't coming to get anything else. I don't even know what comes after a merit. So I probably pass. But I knew right from the beginning that's what I wanted. And I started thinking about, well, I know what I want to achieve. How do we get there? I love maps. So now we've zoomed in. And we started off imagining Muna as going to London City Airport. What I've done is I've highlighted the different paths that she can use to get there. A lot of the paths will take, the longest route is 55 minutes. The shortest is 32 minutes. So a quick national rail from Charlton, and then the DLR, and Muna is at London City Airport. But that 55-minute journey means she can take the bus. All of them are all going to London City Airport, but some of them will take you longer. How do you get there? So you've got your vision, you want your distinction. But how do you get to that distinction? Assuming you were doing a PhD, you want to get a PhD in XYZ topic, how do you get there? And that's some of what I'm going to talk about today. And my advice in terms of mindset is work backwards if you can. Work backwards if you can. If you want to get a distinction, I'll probably share with you what I did. What I did personally is I decided I have to get an A in all of my modules because then I'm guaranteed a distinction. There's no doubt. There's no questioning that. And the truth is, the amount of effort you put into getting a distinction is not the same amount of effort it takes to get a merit or a pass. That means that for me personally, I made the decision to focus on my studies. I got a part-time job because I saw a lot of other people getting part-time jobs around me. And I thought, oh, it'll be great. But the truth is, you have to be self-aware. This takes me to my next point. Know yourself. I know myself. There's certain things I can do simultaneously, and then there are just some things I cannot combine other things with. I started a part-time job as an RA doing data entry for some PhD students. So at the time, I was a master's student, and my housemates were PhD students, and they told me, oh, Anya, there's a job in our office. I think this was the Department of Psychology. They just needed someone to do some data entry work for them. And I said, great, I applied, I got the job, and I was working in their office. It wasn't too far from the university, but I realized something. At the time, while I was trying to do my assignment, and I remember it was an HR assignment, it was an HR module. Pastor Emmy is laughing. It was an HR module. While I was trying to do that assignment, I was struggling because I was working full-time in that office, and at the same time, I was trying to do my assignment, and I wasn't making any progress. And I said to myself, my mom didn't send me here to do this work. Like, I need to focus. Again, back to your goal. Why did you come here? Did you come here to make change? How much are they paying? Data entry? Or did you come here to get that distinction and move you forward? I quit that job quickly, and I focused on my assignment. The other thing that helped me while I was working is, so the first point, how do you learn? Personally, I learn faster when I speak to someone, when I have a conversation about a topic, a new topic, and then I can read those journal papers. Because when you get to do your master's, there are a lot of academic readings that you have to do. For example, I give my students, there are loads of readings they have to work through. One thing that I told them, so we just had our induction yesterday, you need to learn speed reading. There's some skills you need to build up. The truth is, no one is born with some skills. You're born with 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 hands, and 2 feet, and biologically, you're good. But other things you have to put work into. Speed reading is a skill that is invaluable, and I advise that you pick that up. There are loads of resources you can draw on. So how do you learn? The reason why I'm talking about these points is because you need to, or what I would advise, is to leverage your strengths and put systems and structures in place to help you achieve that goal. So we set out that we want to achieve a distinction. So what are your strengths? How do you learn? Some people learn by discussing with peers. Some people learn by reading. It's easier, it's faster for them. Whatever that is for you, leverage that. Focus on that. Don't look to the next person and say, oh, GT is always reading in the library. I'm going to do what suits you. If you work best in the morning, work in the morning. If you work best in the evening, work in the evening. When I was a PhD student, I worked in the evenings. I came into the office at 6 p.m. because I knew that was when others were leaving. And I stayed there till 6 a.m. the next morning, and I sleep throughout the night, throughout the morning. Come back again at 6 a.m., at 6 p.m. I have my Red Bull, I have my Lucozade. It wasn't healthy, but it worked for me because I noticed that I'm sharper at night. So know yourself. How do you work? When are you most productive? Leverage those things that are unique to you, not the next person. And what worked, something I learned is, what carried you through your undergraduate won't carry you through your PG, through postgraduate. It's a different ballgame entirely. So in UG, undergraduate, you can cram, you can master, you can read those textbooks, 3 to 4 days before your exam, get in there, multiple choice, guess, come out with a B or a C. PG it won't work because you've got essays to write. And to write a critical essay, I'll come back to these essays, to write a really good one, it means that you have to do significant reading because you need to demonstrate critical thinking. And to do those readings, so yesterday we had one of our alumni, a former PI student from the 23-24 cohort. We had some of them come in and speak to our the new students. And he said to them to read one journal article. It took him 3 hours. You have 5 to read. And that's not all. You have more work to do in preparation for the class next week. So that kind of spooked the students. And then I quickly came in and said, learn speed reading, it will help you. But the point is, you can't afford to do last minute. You can't afford to procrastinate some of those habits from when you were an undergraduate that saw you through. It won't work in postgraduate. So it means that there's some new skills that you need to develop, some new habits that you need to put in place, and habits you need to unlearn and just let go of fully. The other thing that helped, and Pastor Emmy alluded to this earlier, this really, really helped me. As soon as I got in, so just like Pastor Emmy, quite like Pastor Emmy, I started in January. That meant that you would come into your term 1 would be term 2 for the September starters. That meant that there were students already in place when I joined. And the first thing I do, remember, I came in with this mindset, I'm going to have a distinction. First thing I did was ask around, who graduated with a distinction? Because you want a role model. You want to see what it looks like, how to get that distinction. I have it in mind, but I have not yet done it. So I need an example. And they mentioned 2 names. I remember my friend said, oh, these 2 guys finished with a distinction. I went round up. When I'm determined, I'm determined. Went up and about asking, can I get their emails? Finally got a grip of the emails. I emailed them. I don't know them from anywhere. They don't know me. One of them was kind. He came back to me and said, I'll meet you. So he had moved to Birmingham at this time. And so we met up one day when he came to campus. And I asked him, how did you get a distinction? What did you do? He started talking me through sort of the things that he did, how he did his essays, how he approached it. He gave me a sample of an essay where I said, give me a sample with the highest grade, because I need to see what an A looks like. If you want to build a house, you don't know what a house, if you've never seen a house before, and I say to GT, I want to build a house, but I don't know what a house looks like. It would be hard to build. It would be hard to accomplish that goal, right? Because I have no sense of what it is. I don't know what materials make up a house. I don't know what the first steps are. Literally, I don't know how to build a house. So that's a really good example. So I needed to see an example of an essay that got an A. What did he do? How is it structured? Are there figures in there? How did he reference? How did he structure his arguments so that it's logical? That was something that helped tremendously. And this idea of getting a mentor, it goes beyond even studying. So beyond your studies, you can benefit from that. Now I'm going to switch to teaching and learning. Now I'm putting on my academic hat, and I'm going to share some tips as an academic that should help you succeed. I kind of touched on this already, but you need to also recognize that the context has changed. That is, teaching and learning in the UK is very different from teaching and learning from wherever you've come from to study. So if you've come from China, you've come from Peru, from Nigeria, wherever, Cameroon, Botswana, the setup is very different. And I'm going to draw from some of my experiences as a master's student. And I remember when I started, my first essay, I think I had 67. And because, again, back to that point of vision, I had 67 and I thought, that's not going to get me where I'm going. I was so angry. I went and I looked for the student that had the highest score. And I said, can I see your work, please? Because I need to know, what did I miss? What did I do wrong? Why did I not get an A? I learned something. So I hope that you're picking up on the patterns that I'm sort of sharing. I learned something while I was a master's student. It's good to talk to people. It's good to learn from people. It's good to humble yourself and ask, that was my peer. I could have said, oh, please, what does she know that I don't know? But I went to her and I said, can I see your work? She shared her work. She had a distinction. She had 70s. I had 67. It means that there's something she knows that I don't know, and I need to talk to her and find out what it is. So she shared her work with me. I saw what she did. I spoke to the module tutor as well to get his feedback. This is something I'll touch on when I get to feedback. And he said to me, oh, the way you structured your work could have been done better. We're in the UK. You have to understand that here, when people speak, it's very diplomatic. So he's not going to say your work was crap. He'll say, it's quite interesting the way you organized your work. That word interesting does not mean interesting literally, like, oh, that's so interesting. No, it can be interpreted as it's crap. It's not good. So I looked at my work and I looked at my friend's work and I noticed that the way I structured it would made it quite difficult for the marker. And I don't blame him for cutting, he probably deducted, maybe unconsciously would have deducted marks because he must have been irritated with the way that I structured the work. And that taught me a valuable lesson. Even the way you present the work to the marker, it matters a lot. It matters a huge deal. Like if I'm marking a dissertation, which I'm doing now, if the work is, if it's not well structured, if the grammar is poor, if the arguments make no sense, or you've already lost marks naturally. You've already lost marks. Well, I'll touch on that when I get to the rubric. So teaching and learning, I want to go back to this point of, in the UK, it's different from other countries, the way you learn. Back home in Nigeria, at least at my time, in my time, might have changed now, learning was a little bit more passive, where you, again, in our culture in Nigeria, I don't know who might be watching from where you're watching, but back home in Nigeria, you don't speak when someone older is speaking. You simply listen and you absorb passively. And this was sort of the way it was. You sort of just take in what they're saying unless they ask you a question. In the UK, it's not so. In the UK, what they're looking for is engagement and participation. In some modules, like in our School of Management, a lack of participation will lose you marks. So if you're sitting quietly and you're introverted, it's not your fault. You're just a quiet person. You lose marks. It's in your benefit to speak up. It's in your benefit to contribute to those discussions. And that's what they're looking for here. Engagement. I'm expecting my students to talk in class, and I'm expecting that they'll contribute in small group discussions as well, not just the whole class. So those are some really important things. The other thing that is vital to recognize is that, again, there's a difference between undergraduate and postgraduate. In postgraduate, the amount of independent study required is a lot larger than when you were in UG. UG, they tell you everything. Oh, this is the theory of neoclassical economics. This is how it works. Nope. In the master's, it's 1 year. No one is going to spoon feed or go back to the beginning. That means that you need to do all of that work yourself. I've just had my 5-minute warning, so I might skip through some slides. I talked about engagement and participation. One thing I'm going to highlight on this slide is you paid too much to keep quiet in class. If you don't understand something, put your hand up, stop that lecturer, ask your question. Think about how much you've spent. Ask your question. Don't stay silent. And if you feel like, I don't want to speak to the lecturer because there's some sort of power dynamic between students and the professor, speak to the teaching assistant, speak to your peer, leverage those interactions. As for your assessments, one thing that I advise my students is ensure that you understand the question that is being asked. Because if you read the assessment and if the module leader is asking you A and you interpret the question as X, it means that you failed already because you're going to answer a different question completely. That means that what I would advise is read the question right from the beginning, and they're always available at the start of the term. Read the question, understand what it says, and then ask, check, sense check your understanding with the module leader. We're available. I welcome those questions. Every module leader should provide clarity as to what it is they're asking you to do. Ask your colleagues. Even though you ask your colleagues, my advice is check with the module leader, because your colleagues might have misinterpreted it too and say, oh, this is what I think we should do. So check that you understand. Fail fast and iterate. That just means start work on the assignment. Share a draft or an outline with the module leader. Get some feedback, because our job then is, if you're going in the wrong direction, we can course correct and bring you back to where you need to be so that you get that A that you're after. Ask for sample essays. Typically on my module, or most modules, there should be samples. And you'll see a sample for a distinction, there's a sample for a merit, so that you can compare, just as I did when I was a student. Start early and ask for help. I'm going to move on, and this is sort of the last bit that I'll touch on, is the rubric and the marking criteria. The marking criteria contains the criteria, each criterion that we will use to evaluate your work. You can self-evaluate yourself. So you can write your essay, take the marking criteria, and check to see where your mark will fall, just by yourself. So I'm going to give you an illustration. Sorry if I walk out of the screen, but it's actually more important for you to see this. So this is from the University of Reading, a rubric, and it's for, I believe, a political science year 3 module. And you can see there that there's a criterion. There's the first criterion, development and motivation of research questions. You can see at the top, there's 80 plus. That's outstanding. There's excellent, very good, good, satisfactory, and 39 and below. That's poor, fail. Now, what do you want to do? You want that first class, which is what we're aiming for. Remember, we started out, we want a distinction. What does the first class research question look like? It's clear and well developed. What else? Well motivated with links to economic theory, whatever the theory is that's in your field. It's grounded in the literature, right? The person, the individual has made use of relevant facts and figures and gone considerably beyond the material introduced. I'll give you readings, we'll give you readings, but we also expect students to go beyond the readings and do more work. That usually helps as well. And then it says the research question is creative and new, novel. That's an 80 right there. Your marker, it's an easy read when you've done this work. That's a first class. You can see the grade band at the top. If we look at a 50 to 59, or I'll take the 40 to 49, the research question is unclear and underdeveloped. It's the opposite of the 80. Now, this marking criteria is available to you right from the beginning of the program. You see your assignment, you see your marking criteria. You can start to read to see what's expected of you, and you can self-evaluate at the end. Last thing I think I have for you is feedback. Read that feedback. Don't avoid it, because it will help you, especially for the first assignment. It will help you to do better in the second assignment, because your marker will tell you your areas of strengths and where you need to improve. So don't avoid that feedback. And then I want to leave you with two quotes, two of my favorite quotes. One is by Teddy Roosevelt. He's the 26th president of the United States. He says, believe you can, and you're halfway there. Believe that you can get that distinction. You're practically there. The second quote is by Earl Nightingale. He says, 1 hour per day of study in your chosen field is all it takes. 1 hour per day of study will put you at the top of your field within 3 years. Within 5 years, you'll be a national authority. Within 7 years, you can be one of the best people in the world at what you do. These quotes, see me, I read them every day. So I'm working now, but I read it every single day. And that's something I want to leave you with. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Onya Idoroko, PhD. And that's my Twitter, but LinkedIn is much better. But thank you very much. And now I'm going to hand over back to Taiwo, our convener.
Thank you so much, Dr. Onya. Can we give a round of applause? Yes, thank you so much. What a fantastic session. I hope you got quite a few nuggets on there. Be self-aware, be strategic about how you plan your time and how you structure your learning, and speak to people. I think there's power in connecting and engaging with people, because, ask the people that have gone ahead of you. And there's so much nuggets to get from that. Thank you so much, Dr. Onya. All right, I'm going to welcome our second speaker this morning. Olugbenga David Adebi is a member of the Chartered Institute of Professional Development, MCIPD. He holds a master's in International Human Resources Management, a BA in Business and HR Management, and is currently a recruitment project manager within the NHS. David has supported and managed several NHS NHG, Housing Association, and NMC, legal sector initiatives with workforce strategy as a business partner, recruitment manager, and lead recruitment project manager. He's a recruitment specialist and consultant with international recruitment experience. David has implemented several innovative approaches to improve employee retention and the workforce. He led and implemented a recruitment project of over £12 million to improve mental health in Southwest London. He has implemented several strategies to talent attraction, branding, and marketing. David is also an entrepreneur and a business owner. Please welcome this morning, S.A.B.U 6.0, David Adebi.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tayo. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Pastor Emmy, for organizing this event. So I would be talking to us today about my journey. I'll be sharing my personal journey on how I started my education in the UK, my undergraduates, and also I'll be talking about how I transitioned in doing my master's and how I went about doing career. So if you could please, let's go to the next slide. Yeah, the next one, please. Thank you. So I'm not going to go draw too much on this. These are basically my portfolio and some of the thanks. And some of the areas I've covered in terms of my career. I have been within the recruitment space for over a decade, and I have worked within several sectors implementing different strategies to support workforce. So today I'll be covering how you can transition from being a student into career, and I'll be giving some nuggets and some tips on how you can establish yourself and some of the challenges you might face. And I would also be talking from a point of empathy, where I've gone through some of the things you guys are going through now, and I believe my personal experience would kind of help you navigate that challenges, that barrier where transitioning from education into career space is concerned. Right, so to give us a bit of a context about my education background, I studied at the University of Wales, did business administration slash human resources, and afterwards I went straight for my master's. And I will share my personal experience about mentorship. It is important that you have an academic mentor. Dr. Aya alluded to that. While I was doing my degree, I had a lecturer who took interest in me. And it was one that he would sit with me and go through some of the models that I was doing at that time. And it would give me some tips on how to improve my coursework, my assessment. And he was the one that actually led me on to say, you know, you're quite good at recruitment. Because I had in my recruitment in one of my modules when I was doing my degree. And that kind of led me in doing my international human resources at the University of Greenwich. And then after my master's, I went ahead and then became an associate member of the C.I.P.D. For you to actually establish yourself in most career, and I'll say, you know, that in quote, because some might not require you to be a member of a registered body. It is advisable that you have a full understanding of the governing body that governs your area of specialty. And the reason I'm saying that is because some universities offer that opportunity for you to study your degree, study your master's, and that master's is associated to you becoming a chartered or a member of the governing body. I got to understand that while I was doing my master's, and I became a member whilst when after I finished my master's. So, the foundation. The foundation is important. Before you coming into the UK, you have a reason. And if you don't, or if you're thinking like, okay, I just want to relocate for the purpose of leaving Nigeria, yeah, that is there. But also, you need to be able to define why. What is the why? Why have you come here? What do you want to achieve? Dr. Oya alluded to that earlier on, but I would kind of elaborate on it a little bit. Why have you come into the UK? What is your purpose? Do you just want to come into the UK to not just relocate, but to also attain a credible university degree? And the reason why I think that is important for you to define is because it will determine how your journey would go. It will determine how you navigate your way, understand the culture, understand the system in this country. So, knowing the reason why you've come could help you understand what next steps and the people that you need to associate yourself with. So if you come in to say, okay, fine, I just want to come here, I'm not really too concerned about the education, I just want to get a job, establish my family, establish myself, that is one thing entirely different. But if you come in to say, yes, I want to achieve my academic career, I want to establish myself in the career space, then some of the things we're saying today would benefit you. So before coming into the UK, or you're currently here in the UK, you're doing your degree, and you're looking to further proceed and then do your master's, try as much as you can to do some credible research on the university you would like to attend. And the reason why I'm going to talk about this is because some universities are offering modules that are not really credible, if I could use that word. And because I know someone who this happened to, they started a program in one of the university, I'm not going to mention the name, and towards the end of the university, they got to know that the modules that they're being taught is different from the modules UK citizen home students are being taught. And that would, in a way, put them on the back seat where career opportunity is concerned. So the home students are paying less compared to international students that are paying double. And when you look at the old modules that they are being taught, is not as solid as the home students in this university. Apart from that, the home student get the opportunity to have a placement, a work placement. And what that does is it gives them that work experience that they need to enter into their career space. So if you are looking to say, you know what, I want to go ahead and then do my master's, I would implore you to do your homework, do your due diligence, find the best university that can offer you a placement and also a good model that would leverage you to enter into that career that you intend or that you desire. However, if you are in that space where you find out that there's no work placement, you've just been taught theoretical aspect of your studying, I'm going to touch on how you can navigate and some of the tips that can help you to not just learn the theoretical aspect, but also find how you can learn practical things about your career. Get the location right. Get the support. It's important that you have the support that you need. And conferences like this are the support that you need to help you establish yourself. Coming into a new country could be daunting. Knowing people, not knowing the system, it could be challenging. So get the support and get the location right. And I mean, I can also look at the location. Let me talk about the location. The location in terms of where you find the university is also imperative. You don't want to go to Newcastle where, you hardly see people of your color. You don't want to go to, Liverpool where the support is not there just because they're offering you an offer condition, or they're offering you a space to come study. Please ensure that you find a university where the support for you to establish yourself is given. And having said that, some universities are quite good. And if you've been led to go to places like that, ensure that the university can actually support you where opportunities are concerned, where you get what you're actually looking for. I've mentioned mentor. It is important that you find a mentor for yourself, academic mentor. Dr. Oya is one. She's available if you need to get someone who can guide you. After university, what's next? What is next? And I think this is important now we talk on. We speak about this. Set a target for yourself if you've not done that. I would say whilst you're studying, begin to look at, okay, what am I going to do with this program that I'm currently studying? Set a target of what you need to do. Where do I see myself when I finish my uni? What do I want to do? I know at times you might be doing something that you don't really like doing, or you're doing something at the moment that say, you know what, I'm going to be an administrator in this space, but let the target that you've set be the drive that will keep you on. Write it down, write it plain, and stay focused on how to get to that target. Mentorship. As you've had an academic mentor, it is also advisable that you have a career mentor. And I'll share my experience. Before I finished my master's, I got my first job at the NHS as a HR coordinator. And my pastor then has taught to me that anywhere you go, try and find someone who has gone ahead of you, speak to them and see how they can mentor you. And when I started in that role, that was what I did. There was this black guy who was the associate director of HR. And I approached him. I said, I've got my master's. I would like to, follow your footsteps. What do I need to learn from you? And he took it upon himself to be my mentor at that time. And he showed me some of the things I need to know. He taught me, if you've not been registered as a CIPD member, and this is the governing body that governs people within my field as an HR professional. And he helped me. He helped me some of the things that he taught me about you pursuing it, being a registered member, learning the things that you need to learn at a particular time, and then taking that bold step to move forward in terms of your career. He taught me all of that. Build an effective relationship. Don't be too shy. You know what you want. As I said, have a target. And part of your target is you associating yourself with and building an effective relationship with people that can help, that can support, people that can speak into your life. Build a good network. And I'll give an example. There was a contract I took 2 years ago, and the contract came through the network and relationship that I have built. And this has got nothing to do with color, because these people I speak of, they are Caucasians. She called me up and said, David, there is an offer for you. There is a job opportunity for you. It was a project lead for an NHS trust in Kent. And when the director called me and she said, David, they've spoke highly of you. When do you want to start? That was what she said. So there was no interview, there was no conversation. And that opportunity came as a result of building that effective relationship. Let's not be too shy to begin to engage people, have that conversation, and put yourself out there. Seek opportunities. Seeking opportunities. And this is my principle. Once I've been in a particular role for 2-3 years, again, after I've learned what I need to learn, been diligent at what I do, been excellent at what I do, learning some of the things I need to learn, I become very conscious that, no, I need to start seeking another opportunities. Yours might be 5 years, whatever works for you. But let's not be comfortable. Let's begin to seek opportunities that are out there. And this is where my next point is volunteering. This is where I was talking about some universities that are not offering placement, work placement for people for international students. One of the ways in which you can actually give yourself that opportunity or give yourself that work placement is by volunteering. And there will be some links and some slides and some information that we'll share later on how you can do that or where you need to go to find some volunteering job. And this is what I did. Because during my master's was not associated to any work placement. So it was difficult for you to send your CV to an employer. Look, I've got master's, I've got degree. They ask you, what experience have you got? None. So my volunteering gave me that opportunity to say, listen, I've been volunteering in this place as an HR coordinator or as an HR advisor. That gives you an edge. So what I did was went straight away, looked into some volunteering opportunities while I was doing my master's. I started in October. I started my master's in September. I started volunteering in October. And January, I got my first job, and I was still doing my master's. So sometimes you might need to do something that would be uncomfortable, because it was uncomfortable at that time. I was working, I was studying, and I was also volunteering. So it's a lot of responsibility that if you're not mentally, your mindset is not there yet, you might struggle with. But again, your why will determine your drive. And your target will determine what you need to do to get to where you're going to. So seek opportunities where volunteering is concerned, and develop yourself, because I'm mindful of the time. Develop yourself. Guarding like these are avenues for us to develop ourselves. Read books. Let's attend some seminars. And don't be too comfortable. I met a lot of people while I was doing my journey in my space of over a decade in my field, where they were my manager at that time, but now because they're quite comfortable in that space that they found themselves, but to the glory of God, I have exceeded them. So let's not be the type that will just be comfortable doing what we're doing. God wants to do a new thing in our life, and we must desire to want to test and challenge ourselves even more. So aim higher, dream big, keep pushing ahead, and keep applying for those senior roles. Your character will sustain you. Be diligent at what you do. Let them speak well after you finish doing your work. Let your work speak well for you. Let's not be those that will just do just mediocre work. Let's be the one when they ask us, are you willing to take on this task? Raise up your hand and say, yes, I'll do it. Be the one to go the extra miles. And when opportunity comes, you will be the first person they will call upon. Challenges. It's important I kind of touch on this quickly. So try and do all you can to avoid negative association. I remember when I was doing my master's, in my first 2 months, I met some couple of guys at my place of work, and they asked me what I was doing. I said to them, I'm studying international human resources, and they said to me, people of color, people from your background, i.e., BMA background, do not do such roles. What am I doing? Go and do something different. And what I did then was, I started associating myself from them. And thank God, I've been able to prove them wrong. So, and many colleagues of me at uni at that time, some of them didn't finish because they didn't believe in themselves, or something happened that spoke negative into the mind, and that kind of derailed them. So be mindful of your space and the people around you. Lack of support. It's coming into this country could be difficult to establish yourself, to get the right support that you need. And again, let's utilize the support and the community that we have or that we find ourselves in. Communities like this are the support that we need. So if you know of anyone that is isolated, that needs support, please speak to us or invite them to come into this house, and we would look after them. Lastly, I'd like to leave you with these 2 books. I would recommend that if you don't have them, try and get them. It really helps you. Number 1 says The Land Between by Jeff Manion. It talks about when you're transitioning from your home country into a new territory, how you can manage yourself, how you can believe and build a mindset that even though I'm unsure of where I am, I know that the end will come, I will come out good. The end and all things will work together for my good. It talks about the people of Israelite moving from the land of Egypt and how they struggled in the wilderness and how they went about some of the habits that the children of Israelite dwell on whilst they were in the desert, and the kind of attitude that you need to build to take you to the promised land quickly. That book talks about it. So if you're transitioning from wherever you're coming from into the UK, I would recommend you read that book. And the second book talks about The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. It talks about how you can develop your mindsets, break down some barriers in terms of habits that we've got, some strongholds, some subconscious mindset that we've built, how we can suppress them once and begin to build an effective mindset that would shape us to become a better person that we intended that we want to become. So I'm just going to leave us there, and thank you.
Thank you so much, David. Can we give David a fantastic round of applause? Can we encourage our speakers online as well? For everybody joining on Zoom, please let's see some emojis and, some comments. Tell us how the last 2 speakers have been a blessing. Okay, we're going to sort of move on. And I'm going to welcome the 3rd speaker this morning. Nicholas Ogunde is a seasoned information security leader with over 18 years experience in securing global enterprises, as he is currently the head of information security at Tulu Oil, where he leads a team focused on building and maintaining robust security architectures whilst fostering a culture of proactive threat mitigation. Nicholas is a passionate advocate for cybersecurity best practice. He's recognized for his expertise across the industry in driving security strategy, managing SOC operations, and ensuring compliance with industry standards like ISO 27001 and NIST. He regularly shares his insights on emerging threats and effective security solutions at industry workshops. His deep understanding of the evolving cyber landscape makes him a valuable resource for organizations seeking to strengthen their cybersecurity posture and navigate the complexities of the digital world that we operate in today. Nicholas is also a chartered manager, a master's and an MBA graduate with a number of information security and IT certifications to his name, including CISSP, Certified Information Systems Security Professional, CEA Certified Ethical Hacker, TOGAF, the Open Group Architecture Framework, CISA, Certified Information Systems Auditor, GIAC, Certified Incident Handler, GIC Global Industrial Cybersecurity Professional, GICSP, just to name a few. S.A.B.U 6.0, please welcome Nicolas Ogunde.
Was that me? It's great to be here today. What a lovely sessions we've had so far. I feel like 25 minutes is so short, and I'll try to pack what we can pack within that time. We've learned a lot in the couple of years we've been in the UK, and it's always a privilege to share some of these tips with people. So I hope you'll be able to pick one or two things, and you start to see themes that run through some of the things that we're saying. Someone of understanding. When I go to conferences like this and sessions like this, what I do is I take snapshots if I can't write them down. So make notes, remember recurring things, because that shows what is common to people. So going on, again, thank you to Pastor Emmy and for this opportunity. He's pastor of King's Word International Church. So maybe a bit of introduction about myself. I think you already know about it, but there was just one thing I just want to pick out. Of course, 18 years experience, BSc. Let me set my timer. So I've divided that into two so that I can talk about some of the things I've learned in my master's, and then I focus a bit on the career. So 18 years experience, BSc in material science. How did someone in material science end up in IT security? That's the beauty about study or learning. There is what's been ringing through what we have been saying is that there's no end to learning. Some people do a first degree and then they realize that I shouldn't have done that degree. That's an opportunity to switch. But some people do the degree and then realize that, okay, actually I have passion for this, and that's brilliant. So I did mine in material science. It didn't take me long to discover that I've missed road, like they say. So then I was able to, but fortunately I was able to develop myself. You heard that again ringing through, switch, and got a job. But then when I moved, my intention moving to the UK was to reinforce the new path that I've now moved into. And that's why you saw that I did my master's in information systems and management. So just entrenching myself in that IT space. And from then on, of course, managerial, again, aspirations, career, you keep hearing that. How do you develop yourself to get to that next level? So why UK? I want to just shed some light on this because hopefully, as has been said, there's a reason why you came to the UK. You didn't go to Ghana. Not that Ghana still have great universities, but there's a reason you didn't go to some of those countries. Don't forget some of those things. Those things are, they are still correct. There are world-class universities in the UK, diverse, inclusive environment, hopefully. These are the reasons you came, of course, in addition to hopefully getting to stay. That's also there. But, exposure to cutting-edge technologies, shorter programs, not 3 years like some, countries I know. You start, you don't know, it's year 5 plus X. X is unknown, There's a, short, punchy courses. And of course, connections from around the world. London specifically is a melting point. They call it a melting point. So you know why you came to the country. You know why you selected whatever school. So this was when I chose my master. Those are the things that was ringing in my head. What do I want? Where school do I want to go? What kind of people do I want to meet? So those are kind of things. Hopefully, you've already selected that course, and they've allowed you to decide on where you are going. Now, but again, like it's been mentioned here, most of us have to transition into, and some of these points have been mentioned, so I wouldn't spend too much time on them. But again, we're transitioning. Some of us, did the courses in the country where it's about what you can get into that head, just cramming. But when you move to a country like UK, where it's not just about what you can put in that upstate. It's about, for example, there's more emphasis. I've categorized it into 3 different, sort of fields, so to speak. The teaching method, the assessment styles, Dr. Onya talked about that, and resources and support that you have. We need to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. For example, differences, understanding differences, more emphasis on, research and thinking for yourself, being able to not just take in what people are saying and say that's gospel. No, being able to challenge thoughts. Less reliance on memorization. I had to learn that the hard way. I'm the kind of person that like to just cram things a lot. I had to change that orientation. It's not about cramming. I, write the same thing the lecturer gave you and you score a B or a C. Like, no, that's not, this is what you told us, but no, what have you added to it? How have you made, this is where, country where I learned, they ask you, how have you made it your own? How have you, changed it so that we can see that you actually understand it, not that you are copying what has been written and just putting it there. So those are the things that you have to learn. Again, it's a shift of mindset, it's a shift of mentality that you are in a different place. Of course, continuous assessment versus exam focus. In some countries, it's all about the last exam, over 100. No, here it's assignment, here is teamwork, here is networking, and we'll talk about those things in learning teams. It's about those things matter a lot, not just the fact that you can do well in an exam and write exams. So understanding that there's a shift like that, is important when we step into an environment like this. And of course, the kind of resources that are available to us to support us. You have more resources. Of course, internet now is available everywhere, but you have lots more resources. I was talking about being able to just walk up to a professor, ask questions, stop classes and ask questions. All of those things, they are advantages that we need to take. So in terms of, I've just itemized some of these skills that I think have helped me, or I've picked along the way. Again, between my first degree and my second degree, there were a couple of years between them. So maybe 5 or 6, maybe 7 actually. So I've been able to apply some of those things. When I went back, I've been able to see the result of some of those things. So we've talked about some of those, time management, and self-discipline. Of course, these are things you need at work, but some of these things are teased out in us. When you have to write theses, there are people that when they want to write their thesis, it's almost like they hit a roadblock. I experienced it as well. Almost like you hit a roadblock, but you have to be able to pull through some of those things. And those things build tenacity in you that you take to the workplace. And when we start to talk about work, you see some of the things I'm talking about. Critical thinking and analytic skills. We already talked about that. How do you think outside just what you've been given to do? Those are the things that you need to be able to be successful. Of course, academic writing. That most people aren't born with. But you can learn it. You read papers, like Dr. Oyan was saying, the more you read, the more you get familiarized with how papers are written. And definitely by the time you are finishing, that skills will have developed. Because if you graduate, then you definitely have written your thesis. So those are the skills that you need. Networking and collaboration, you need to be able to work in teams. That was something that was so big when I came to this country. You are in a learning team. Most good schools, put you in a learning team. So that you're not just by yourself doing stuff. Because what is important is how you are able to relate to one another. I was in one learning team, and it was a cross, so to speak. There was one guy that was like a cross. I'd say cross to carry. But it was a challenge that I had to deal. But those kind of people, you meet them in the workplace. And so when you start dealing with them and learning these things, those skills follow you to the workplace. I remember, this is how I dealt with this person. So you learn skills. Sometimes there's friction. Sometimes we hang out. And those guys are now my lifelong friends. The groups that we set up for assignment, we still have the group up to now. That was like 5 or 6 years ago. We call ourselves Group 10. And we're always chatting, saying, how is someone doing? This one's the director here, this one. So we still kept in touch. So it may be challenging at first, but those networking, they're part of in fact, I would say they are part of the key benefits of what you get when you actually go to school in a country like this. Of course, talk about, not just theory, but being able to balance that. And then, of course, it's an opportunity for us to stay with industry trends, what's going on. Now, I'll just digress a bit because obviously I'm security. Just want to give some pointers in terms of security, information security, for someone that's interested. There are different domains of information security, as I'm sure there are different domains of some other fields. But in security, you have cybersecurity, network security, cloud security, IoT security, cryptography, forensics, and of course, security management. And some people, when they think about security, they just think about technical things. That's not necessarily so, because there are different fields. I have people that studied economics that are in security, because again, remember what we said, you can always train yourself. I will talk about some of these things. You can always retrain or redirect your skill and that's where you see, this is not about just what is hot now, and it's security, and no, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being intentional to say, okay, I think this is something that I feel like I want to do, I want to pursue. And being able to pivot into that. We'll talk about pivoting a lot. Being able to pivot to that sector because there's an experience you can always bring in. Security is so interesting because there are different aspects of it, and you can always bring your experience in from a different sector. That security management, you can talk about governance, talk about managing, people, policies, procedures, not necessarily technical. Of course, you have a more technical side that may be with networks. That's a bit more technical. You need to be able to connect wires. You need to be able to do all those. That's a separate side of it. But we also have some other things that are cloud. It's also a bit softer. So there are different skills, areas of that. But of course, not that anyone here is in security, so I'm not going to spend too much time in it. But every other field also has something like this. So if anyone is interested in information security, of course, you can find me on LinkedIn, and then we can take it from there. Now, one thing I've kept talking about is about leveraging opportunities. And that's one of the things that actually helped me when I was studying. I've written a book, but it's a book between me and my professor. And some of those opportunities, we need to learn to take advantage of them, even as we are studying. Because some people might be thinking, it's when I finish and then that. No, even as you are studying, be careful to look for opportunities. The opportunities came. We're thinking we wanted to write a book. He was looking for, what book, but he saw the topic I was working on about cloud computing. I said, oh, wow, this was many years ago before cloud computing became a thing. So if you look for a book on cloud computing, factors affecting cloud computing, my name and my professor's name will come up. Because at the end of the day, when I did research around it, and it was so good, it was like, wow, this needed to be a book. And together we published a book. So there are different opportunities to be able to collaborate with people, and we have to be able to take advantage of some of them. Some of them is going to be with our professors and peers. In my group 10, when we were doing my MBA, and I said we're in a group, we were going to start a particular business. It was just, logistics was just too much, and we couldn't go on with this. But some other businesses that have started out of things like this, where people were in a group and they just thought about, we were given an assignment to come up with an app that can be used to do some, generate money and all that. And we came up with this fantastic idea about, saving the world and all that in terms of green energy, and it was a very brilliant idea, but I think when you don't have that coordination and all that, sometimes this is just fall by the wayside. But it would have been an opportunity to take that kind of things. But those things happen when people network, when they work together in pairs, ideas, friendships, internships. Is also something that I think has been talked about a lot. There are some, schools offer it, some don't. If your school offer it, take advantage of it. Again, we'll get to what all of this is leading to. I think those are the key things. We talk about, one other thing I just want to emphasize is also professional network. The fact that you're in school or you're still studying doesn't mean that you can't attend professional, sessions or professional things that are not just university related. There are so many conferences out there. There are so many, not just security. In my field, yes, I know about my field. But HR, if you're in HR or whatever it is, law, there are so many conferences that are happening. You can go online, meet up, and just search for some of these things. You can be part of these things. And what those things are, they start to shape your mind. They start to guide your mind towards not just university, but outside of that. And when you speak in class or when you talk with more exposure, more breadth than just what you are reading in textbooks. Let me move on because I feel like my time is up. Now, of course, I've just called it about building InfoSec, but it's not just about building InfoSec career. It's all about building your career generally, and I think I'm stepping gradually into it now. I mentioned internship and workplace studies. If you can do that, certifications. I'm sure when you were, hearing a list of certifications, it's not just because they are good to do. It's because sometimes people respect them. In fact, a lot of time people respect them. So when you're having certifications, when you are doing those courses, when people see that beside your name, at the first instant, it gets you through the door. To say, okay, this person looks like he knows what you're talking about. And then you get an opportunity to be able to present yourself and represent what you think you know. But sometimes those things are very important. So I normally tell people, when I switched from my degree course, initial degree, to IT, to networking, it was a certification that helped me. Because I finished my degree and I was like, okay, but this is not what I wanted to do. So this is what I want to do. How can I get there? And got advice. Why don't you focus on this? I did that. With that certification, started out as an entry level in network. So you can always switch with things like certification. They can be a launching pad for the next things. Joining professional association, again, some of those things I mentioned about Meetup. You can also, just look for ones that are in the area or sector that you want to join or you have interest in, and find out how can I be part of that. Some of those things help you, and they also add skill set to you, but that we're going to talk about shortly. Of course, I mentioned attending industry conferences, building a strong LinkedIn network. Not everyone profile. I had to be, it's one of the things I had to work on myself. Some people are quite good at it, being active on LinkedIn profile. But especially if you are someone that is just coming out of uni or just, trying to step into a pivot, LinkedIn is very, very good, obviously, because there are lots of people there and people are always looking there. Jobs are always being posted there almost on a daily basis. So obviously, building a strong, if you don't know how to do that, that's fine. There are people that can help. Just need to talk to someone. There are people, panelists, you can talk to any of these of the panelists. After this session, we can always guide you or refer you to someone. Or even online in LinkedIn, there are people that can help you to design profile if you are interested in that. And of course, I'm not going to emphasize mentorship. I think that's already been emphasized. Right. Pivoting. Let me talk about pivoting now, because I think it's so important when you want to pivot from that. I've just listed 3 things that are so important that helped me to pivot when I wanted to pivot from my degree to my career. Now, mine is a bit interesting because I was sort of working and also doing the degree at the same time. So it worked out quite good for me. But one of the things I've learned about pivoting is to leverage your existing skill set. A lot of people disregard what they've learned, or they don't see it as relevant. And that's 15 minutes. Okay, that's fine. So a lot of people disregard some of the things they've learned, that is not necessarily directly related to what they are looking for. You can always package what you have to align with where you're going. If you have added value somehow, it can be repackaged. And you don't have to lie about it. It's not about lying. It's about repackaging. And you can repackage it in such a way that it can get your leg through a door. And that's what I want to emphasize in this list. That's one of the things that helped me when I was moving from the country. Now, of course, for me, it was a bit straightforward because I was already in a career line that I wanted to continue. But even then, I was trying to bang my head in. For the first couple of months, it was like, where are you coming from? It was like I was just hitting a wall. But some of those things that we've done that can complement it, and that's why Brother David already talked about volunteering. Some of the best volunteering opportunities that has developed a lot of people, like working in churches, working in charity organizations. Some of the things that you're doing, you think they don't matter. But by the time someone helps you to repackage those experiences, you think they are lying on your CV. I'm telling you. But they're not lying because it's about packaging. And that's why you have to, be able to package your skills, because everybody has got something that they can actually leverage to get them from where they are to where they're going. Someone said on LinkedIn, you are never too far away from whoever it is that you want to connect to, maybe 2 or 3 steps from. I want to tell you that whatever the next level is somewhere around you. Your next level is somewhere around you. It just needs to be well packaged. And in terms of, leveraging those existing skills, I want to talk about identifying what are the transferable skills that aligns to the particular place where you are heading. There are bits of what you have that you can package that aligns to where you are going. There are some bits, if you are going a different place, you need to take a different side of it that applies to a particular route, and you need to understand that. Now, you may not be able to do that, but that's why you can consult. That's why you can talk to mentors. That's why you can, seek ideas. But there is always someone that can help you package what you have to help you to where you're going. So you always have skills that are transferable. And so I would say, yes, identify those skills. If you can't, get help to do that. Use examples of past success. That's always an indication. Have you done something of value? Have you added value? Has someone said thank you for something? Those are things that can be packaged well, to be able to reflect on the kind of person that an organization is looking for. I'll put there also networking with a purpose. That's just, again, as part of skills, select people, and I think Brother David talked about that, select people that are going to where you are going. Some of the negative we talk about are people that tell you, if you don't want to work in Burger King, don't spend your time with people that are working in Burger King. Or join them and work in Burger King. If your desire is to get a professional job, who says students can't get professional job? 20 hours, yes. But it doesn't mean that 20 hours must be spent cleaning the floor. I'm not to despise those kind of, they're not to be despised. But I'm saying if you surround yourself with the right people, you can learn what you need to learn to move from a cycle that you are to where you want to go to. So network with a purpose. Be intentional about who you have around you. Of course, tailoring your skills to, we talked about that, being able to just apply it. There's some roles when I'm applying for, when I was looking for, I have a breadth of experience, but there are some of my experience that I de-emphasize when I'm applying for a particular role. And I emphasize some. In fact, when I, some of these things we have to learn it as going along. When I initially came, there was a role I applied for, I think it was something about, it was an administrator. Apparently, it was like a typist or something. By the time I submitted my CV, and this people called me and said, why you apply for this role? Because, sometimes you are desperate, you just want to, so let me just get my leg through. But they saw my qualifications, saw everything, they said, why are you applying for this role? And that's what can happen sometimes when you are not in. Now, of course, it's a good thing they didn't take me because that's not where I wanted to head up. But there was a way I could have packaged and de-emphasize so many things, and they would just say, oh, yeah, you're an administrator, come and do the work. But that's not what you want. You want to package yourself for where you're going. Now, of course, continue to learn. Learning, we keep talking about that. Things like AI, for example, now. Don't. If you don't know about AI, generative learning, all of those ChatGPT, all of those things now, you are behind. You're way behind. We need to catch up and keep making sure that we're abreast of what is happening. Then the other thing I wanted to say is that know who you work for. I've purposely drawn this thing here because a lot of people don't have an idea of who they work for. It seems interesting because when I say, who do you work for? Oh, I work for Tolo, or I work for whatever company that you work for, NHS. I work for this. But if we go to NHS and say, I don't know who even represents NHS. Do you know this person? They don't know you. The only person that knows you is whoever it is that you're reporting to. This can't even say. Now, I've purposely drawn this because just to give you an indication of how an organization is like. Of course, you have the shareholders at the top. You have the CEO, possibly the senior leadership, senior managers, and then managers. Now, you might be reporting to any of this. Obviously, if you are the CEO, you are reporting to the shareholders. If you are a senior leadership, then you are reporting to chief executive officer. But the important thing I'm telling you is that the only person that you are connected with in that organization is your manager. A lot of people are not honoring, or what's the right word is, it's not carrying their manager along. The word is to honor, but they don't realize that their primary job
what's that guy
is to do what their line manager says. So let me paraphrase that. I put it in a way. Your primary job is to make your manager's job easier. That's your primary job. Forget about my job is to settle your job, your primary assignment is to make your manager's job easier. That's my primary job. I look at my CIO and, okay, what does she want to do? Okay, this is what needs doing, and how can I arrange my job to support her? If you don't know that, because my managers at work have helped me so much, and I know why. It's because if someone when I'm recruiting up and promoting people, the people I promote are the people that makes my work easier. When I need something done, I know people that I go to because they make my work easier. You need to be that go-to person that makes that your manager thinks you make their job easy. I've heard people saying, oh, I don't agree with my manager, I'm fighting with my manager. It's time to quit that job. That means that job is not for you. Or you need to change manager. You must realize that your job, your primary assignment is to help that line manager. If you can't agree with the manager, switch. Because I've seen how you can be lifted through people that you work for. And it's not just a scriptural thing, of course, but it's the fact that when you work for people, you owe them that responsibility. Because at the end of the day, they also have someone that they are reporting to. And that's how the chain of command flows up. So you must align with your manager or look for another job. Of course, I put that only your line manager can promote you. When we are in the workplace, I've never seen a manager say, I think this person deserves a grade B. And then the person above the manager say, no, it deserves A. It's done fantastically well. I've never seen that before. When we're on the table, the person higher will say, I'm not really saying what this person has done. Maybe it's a C. But the person manager will say, no, he's done this, he's done that. So it's your manager that defends you. It's not the other way around. If your manager says you deserve B, nobody will give you your manager. And if you realize that your primary responsibility is making your line manager's job easier, I think you're partway there. Make your manager feel good. I know some managers circumvent managers and go and speak to just make your manager the person that you directly report to. If someone comes to you, tell your manager, okay, there's this work I've been asked to do, just keeping you abreast. If he doesn't want you to do it, he will let you know, and you don't need to do it. He says, oh, that's fine, do it. But what you are doing is that you are honoring that manager. You are making sure and when that manager is promoted, some people, they drag the people with them. They become CEO, I want this person. My CEO right now, I'm sure time is up. My CEO right now brought his second in command when he was coming. He didn't interview. As you have interviewed the CEO, he just said, by the way, this person is coming with me. And they just followed him. Why? Because he knows that his job will be easier when he gets to that place. If you do that, that's the next level. The only other thing I just want to say before I begin to round up is that when you are pivoting, don't do enough. Do more. Again, it's something that's going in my mind about people just doing enough and not doing enough. How do you do that? Go beyond your job descriptions. I'm a passionate person about not just doing enough. The way you have been doing it 10 years ago is not enough. If you're still doing like that, you are just doing enough. You need to do more than enough. When they are letting people go, the people that are doing is first the people that are not even doing performing. Those ones go. Then when they are saying, okay, who next? Is the people that are just doing enough. They will never let people that are doing more than enough go. I've tried to leave and they've never let. The first time I wanted to leave, they said, oh, okay, we can increase your salary to this. That's what happens when people are doing more than enough. But I know some other people that as they are leaving, they say, when you say you're leaving again, can you leave earlier? In fact, there was one person that my manager just said, this thing is not really working. The person was yet to be confirmed. Okay, there was two. No, don't even work your notice. Don't worry. We'll pay you the money. With the note, but that's what happens when you're just doing barely enough. We need to go beyond your job descriptions, and how do you, anticipate needs and problems. Think about what your manager is doing. How can you help your manager? Continue to improve what you are responsible for. Don't just the same way you have been doing it. Think about how you can improve what you are doing. Invest in your own development. We already talked about that. And be a resource for that. Let's be not just being a bottleneck, but be important that people know when they come to you, their solutions, their problem in that area is solved. Then I can assure you that, Now, I've just put some of the challenges. I think that's already being handled, but I won't spend too much. But some of the challenges can be cultural. You can take a snapshot of that. I won't spend too much time. But you can join groups that are available. Don't take the support that the university offers lightly. There's some support there that you can actually leverage in the university that you are studying. Even when it comes to career, they have career departments that you can go to and talk to someone. And of course, some schools have scholarship if you're having financial constraints. Obviously, if you're in a church, you have people to talk to. But, also, if you need financial services, I'm sure there will be a disclaimer, they are not financial advisor, but they can always, advise you. And when it comes to job market competition, we talk about the skills, how you can just tailor what you have. We've talked about all of that, so I won't spend too much time. But those are the things that you can do in part of when you have challenges. Hopefully something that we can, something we can talk about more in the panel if questions like that come through. Okay. All right, my final thoughts as we round up. Obviously, you are here already. The UK offers immense opportunity. Hopefully, it's something that this is why you are here. But challenges can be transformed to opportunities. It's not just about challenges. Challenges will be there. You're going to write your thesis. If you haven't already, it might seem as if you've met a block, but you can push through. There are always people that you can consult and you can talk to. But you can get success when, like we said, you put yourself in what you're doing. You leverage the skills, and of course, you understand how to navigate the workplace. Obviously, there's more than navigating the workplace than just your line manager. But for me, those are the key things that have helped me a lot. I've made mistakes in some other areas. Sometimes I've not been too aware, but because of some of the things I've done, I think I've been able to, those three keys have really helped me. All right, I've taken so much time. I spoke fast as well, but hopefully you're able to get what I'm saying because I feel I have a lot. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to come back for the panel session. So for those in the room, there's tea, coffee, refreshments in the back of the auditorium. Please avail yourself to some of that. For those on Zoom, we love you. Go and grab a cup of tea or a slice of toast or something, but please make sure you're back here in 5 minutes. Thank you, everyone. All right. Welcome back, everybody. If you're in the room, at home, in your office, wherever you're joining from, you're welcome. Can we see some engagement in the Zoom room? Let us know how the session has been a blessing already this morning. What are some of the highlights that you've picked up from all of the three speakers this morning? Now afternoon. Let us know what has been pivotal. What's the one thing you're going to take away from the session today? So let me see some engagement in the comments. Okay, I'm going to welcome back all of the panelists now. And this is an opportunity for all of those adept listeners who've been listening, writing things down, and just thinking about some of the things, processing the information you've heard already today. This is an opportunity to ask questions. So we'll be taking the questions from the room, but also from those online as well. But firstly, we're going to go into a sort of short panel session, and I'm going to use this session to maybe delve a little bit more into some of our panelists' experiences, some of their thinking when it comes to succeeding, at and beyond university. Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, I should say. So I think the first question I'm gonna start with on the panel is, what is the one career or post-study decision you feel you didn't make? And the context of that question is to help people think about what are some of the choices that I need to make today? What are some of the choices that I need to think about now that will sort of impact my career and, my trajectory going forward? So what is the one career or postgraduate study decision you wish you didn't make? I can start and say that, everybody sort of in my general network know my story, but I was talking to one of my sons a few days ago, and, the conversation sort of strayed to this topic, but a lot of my friends in my network are all doctors, and that's because that was what I was going to study before I then sort of switched careers and landed in sort of the program management where I am now. And when I think back to that and I look at how strenuous, I think, is the word that comes to mind, just from raising children, having such a high intensity career. I always ask myself that question: is that a line of career that I would have really pursued and be happy? And so for me, I think the decision at that point not to study, not to go down that particular career path, was something that sometimes I sort of think, was that the right thing to do, or was it correct to sort of switch gears and change course? And I think if I look at my quality of life and the way that things that I'm able to do now, especially around my family, I'm really grateful that, God just sort of orchestrated things to change my career trajectory and sort of ensure that I landed where I am now. So I am really grateful to God for that. No, I mean, huge credit to all of the doctors in the house. You do an amazing job, but I don't know, I'm not convinced that I would have been able to raise 3 boys and have such a high intensity career as well. So God had me in mind when he was sort of doing all of those things. But maybe, David, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, thanks, Tao. So I think looking back and putting that together and looking at where I'm at now, I would say it has all worked together for my good. But if I'm to look back and say what else, what was the wrong decision that I that I made, would have been the choice of the university that I went for to do my master's. The money, the fee it wasn't small. It was a lot of money that I paid, and I felt I didn't get something tangible, something reasonable that could help me to leverage where my career space is concerned. However, we know that all things work together for our good. And God will always give you ideas, even though you think you've made that wrong decisions. And the idea He gave me was that voluntary opportunities that came. And that is also, we can link that to the people we associate ourselves with, seeking knowledge, trying to just allow God to bring people into your life. It was just in a gathering, not in a gathering, someone actually took interest in me and was asking me, what am I doing? And we're talking about my career, what my next step would be. And I was sharing how the university has decided to kind of put international students aside. And I didn't know what they were thinking at that time, but it was unfair. We wrote many complaints. It didn't amount to anything. And then she just, dropped it to say, but have you thought about volunteering opportunities? And I said, okay, I'm open for anything. And again, you need to be open-minded. You need to have that mindset to seek opportunities when one comes. And she linked me up, and the rest is history as we speak. So that would be the only time I would have thought, if I had done a probably due diligence where choosing a university is concerned, I would have probably done a better job. But again, here we are.
Thank you for sharing that, David. Dr. Onya?
Okay, great. My mic's on. For me, I think what I would have done differently, if I can rephrase the question, is I would have specialized. My PhD supervisor actually gave me this advice. So after my Viva, after I had submitted my thesis, I had my Viva, he asked me, so what do you want to do? And I started giving him, I've got this idea to do this and that. And he said, no. You want to specialize. And he said, that was advice that his PhD supervisor gave him, but he did not take on board. And here's why specializing really works or helps your career. Because when people think of that field, they think of you. For example, there's a colleague, when it comes to organizational change, middle managers, her name comes to you. When you're writing your paper, it's her name you go to fish out. When you think of, there's certain topics, certain areas that people are clearly experts in those areas. And this is what my supervisor was trying to get me to do. If you think even about Darwin, Einstein, they focused. They weren't generalists. They weren't hopping up and about. They learned about one thing. They became masters in that one thing. So that when you need help in that one area, who would you rather call? Someone who is doing project management, banking, health? Or are you going to call the one person who you know has spent their career understanding that particular area? So for me, I think what I would have done differently is focus right from the beginning. So it's something that I'm doing now because I've had conversations with several people that are quite close and like mentors to me. And they've said to me, specialize on because I know a lot of things. And I remember I was in a conference in Chicago, and a colleague and we were working. He's a cognitive psychologist, and we were in one of the same sessions together. So I was contributing, and then after the session, he said, oh my God, Onya, you're really speaking my language. Like, what a lot of cognitive psychologists would talk about pertaining to the topic that we were discussing in that session. And he said, well, what is your area? And I thought, my area is everywhere. Like, I know too many things. Like, I can't even pinpoint one thing. And then the advice he gave me, which was so helpful, he said, ground yourself. Because I said to him, I haven't picked a place that I want to camp out and just stay and master. Because I feel like I like a lot of things. A lot of things are interesting for me. And he said, don't see it as a marriage, as this is the end. If you pick this field or this area, that's the end. You can't do other things. He said, well, have your one area that you, when people see you, they know that's that cognitive psychologist. Or that's that person who's an expert in this thing, in this field, in this area. Like Minister Nicholas showed us those, the array of cybersecurity. Have I got that right? And he said, you don't need to know all of it. You can be an expert in governance. You can be an expert in the architecture. You can be an expert in anything, but pick one thing that you're going to do excellently well. So I think that's what I would have done differently.
Thank you so much. That is so profound. So David said that, do your homework and sort of know before you go. And I think Dr. Onya sort of buttressed that as well with the point of, find a specialism, find a niche. One of the things I've sort of started to see evolve, or the conversation evolve around a lot in the workplace at the moment, is around problem solving. Now, it's not a new thing. Organizations have problems. The key thing is the people that are able to stand up, provide articulate and very clear solutions to those problems, and then go ahead and solve the problem. Because I think where we've sort of got stuck is we talk a lot about things, but the doing, the people that are actually going to go and make the change in the organization are the people that are going to really make it in sort of the evolving landscape of work. And it's important to be a problem solver. Find something, I was watching a video or something on LinkedIn a few days ago, and this career professional was talking about, going into an organization and not sort of saying, oh, yes, I'm this, and I've done all of these amazing things. But it's going in there in the first 90 days, what are the 10 things that I can fix in this place? Because that means that they will never forget you. It still boggles my mind, and I'm not saying this to sort of blow my own trumpet, but I still talk to some of my colleagues in places that I've worked in the past. And when I hear people say things like, oh, somebody mentioned something that happened or something that you did that I've even forgotten about. But that's impact. And that's what Jesus calls us to do. We have to remember that at the heart of this is our Christian faith, to live a life of impact. So don't go into that workplace as, yes, I'm just there, I'm just Taiwo. How can I impact people? How can I find a niche? How can I find an area? Do your homework. Be clear in terms of the problems that you're trying to solve and how you're going to go ahead and solve it. Mr. Nicholas.
Brilliant. So, for me, I think maybe I'll just say two short ones. I think the first one for me is, I think both of them have touched on it passively, though, I think, and that's getting a mentor or having an early mentor. I think I struggled a lot. In hindsight, I went through things I shouldn't have if I had spoken to someone. I think that, and then some of these are temperament, some of these, you need to come out of yourself thinking that you can achieve things by yourself. Someone said one is too small a number to achieve significance. One is sometimes we think we can do a lot more than we think we can. But people that have gone through these things that can actually just tell you the cheat, way that you don't have to go through the whole thing. I think one of the times I saw my career started to take a new shift is when I had a particular person, still my mentor me from information security. And I think before then, to be honest, I was just going along without, I would call it some sort of direction. I just wanted to, be a security person, whatever that means. There is no plan of where do you want to end up. CISO, CIA, all of these things. It's just, maybe just any money. And some of these are mentalities that maybe it carried over from where one is coming from. But I think realizing that, when I started to learn about what mentor does, getting close to people and being intentional to not just expect the person to chase you, but actually intentionally connecting to the person to demand their time, not just thinking, oh, he's a mentor, he'll come and chase. No, they won't do that. But pulling from them, I think that's when I began. So I've wished earlier in my career I had done that. I look at some of my colleagues and I'm like, LinkedIn is a place where you want to just make yourself feel a bit jealous. Go to LinkedIn and look at most people and say, what are you doing with your life? Anyway, so just to joke. But those things, I felt like some of those things. Now, of course, God is good, like we said. God does catch us up. But I feel like if I had taken advantage of that earlier, if I knew, I feel like I would have progressed further. The only other thing, let me just clear is that I wished I put myself out there more. In my learning group, one of the things in the school, like Dr. Onya said, you need to be visible. You need to be known, especially in class, when it's time to talk, time to share ideas. My learning team, for some reason, they try to suppress. We suppress us. Of course, we still work well at the end, but we try to say we are the quiet sort of people. So we sit at the back of the auditorium. We do things that pushed us to the back. And I felt that by doing that, we sort of made ourselves less significant in the so yeah context. So people didn't really know a lot of us, so we're not that visible, and I felt like because of that it made me feel as if I wasn't like, there's some people who talk and people will know them and they will have their birthdays and all that, and those things matter. People don't know you, sorry, you're winking in the dark. So I felt like I put myself out there more to be more visible.
Fantastic, thank you so much for sharing that. I think we're gonna stay on that point of visibility. And mentorship as well, because one of the things that I get asked a lot is, oh, can you please be my mentor? But then it sort of fizzles out, like either whether that's the person not making enough of a demand on the person that you're asking to be your mentor's time, or the dynamics just doesn't work. So, and please remind me if we need to come back to that point of visibility, but I want to touch on this mentorship one as well. So in your experience, from your career experience, what has been a fantastic mentorship relationship? What have you got out of it? And how have you gotten to that point where you knew that, yes, this mentorship was brilliant? And I'll give you guys a case in point. So one of the general misconceptions about mentorship is, oh, it has to be somebody that's supremely more senior than me in the organization. And I've come this morning to debunk that. Someone who's sort of on a similar career trajectory can potentially be a mentor. And in my case, I had someone who, the role they were in at the time, which sort of made us peers, they took a step back to go into that role so that they could then build the necessary experience to leverage to then get into a more senior role. So at the time, I didn't see that person as, oh yeah, we're a pair, we're on the same grade or whatever. For me, it was, what does this person have that I think that I'm going to need in the next 12 to 18 months? That's what it was. And I sort of analyzed their career. I looked at some of the things. So they had, and I know Pastor Emi has challenged us to come to this session with tangible examples. So that person had senior leadership exposure. So they could go into, at the time I was working in a bank, they could go into a bank and walk into the exco and say, look, I need X, Y, Z, and I need you guys to fix it. So for me, I knew that I didn't have that level of leverage within the organization, and I wanted to have that leverage. I wanted to have that reach. I wanted to make my name known. So it was partnering with that person and seeing how they managed to reach into the organization, how they managed to make their name known across the organization. And for me, being able to do that then meant that I could go on to a bigger role than what I was, because I walked into an interview and the first thing the hiring manager said to me was, I know you, I've seen your name somewhere. And that's powerful, because you've already sort of, your works have gone ahead of you, to say the least. So
I was going to share it. Yeah. At that point in time, don't say, oh, you don't know me. That's the wrong thing to say. You want to say, oh, yeah, yeah, you know. Because some people will say, no, I don't think we've met before. And sometimes, and I'm going to be spiritual on this, you know, those things pour favor ahead of you.
Yes.
You know, they may not even have met you. Maybe you look like someone. But that's not the time to be trying to say, no, we've not met before because I've not, because like you are pouring water on the favor. So I just said I should just share
No,
that.
that is so profound. It's so true. That's a nugget right there, and it's true because the natural thing you want to do is no, I don't know you. Like, you know, where do you know me from? Type thing. But again, you might just then completely build a wall, and that person just shuts down, and they don't want to hear anything you want to say after that. So it's fantastic. How did you hear about me? How did you know my name? And then, you know, it's a conversation starter. But let me come to Dr. Onya and yeah, maybe share your thoughts around, you know, what are have a think about a mentorship relationship that has really sort of moved your career forward. And if one doesn't exist at the moment, what are you looking for in a mentorship that you think will really make a big difference?
I think for me, one Minister Nicholas touched on something that I think is crucial, and I need to reinforce. There's a saying, you know, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And I'm that type of person. I'm the first type. Go fast. Let's move. And you do that easily when you're on your own. If I need to go somewhere now, I pick up my bag, I move. But if I say, let's all go together, or Bingham might say, wait, I need to talk to Pastor Emmy, so there might be some delays. But the thing is, if you go with people, you will accomplish more than you can ever do on your own. I just feel like I need to start with that first. So in terms of the mentorship, and it's linked actually, I have several mentors, male, female, older, younger. I have several mentors. And one of my mentors, he's the CTO of a large organization. And when he's in town, he says, oh, Onya, I'm in town. And I'm like, okay, let's go for coffee. Remember Taiwo said, some people come to her and say, can you mentor me? But they don't put in that effort to actually meet with her or talk to her or pick her brain. And he said, I'm around from this date to this date. Let's meet up. I'm like, I'm meeting up, definitely. I don't care if I had so many things going on, but I made time for that meeting because I knew it would activate me. It would do something for me. When we met up, he said, what's going on? I said, this is what I'm trying to achieve. And here's the language I was using. I was saying, oh, I hope that I can do X, Y, Z. He said, no, you don't hope. You will do. So he checked my mentality, my thinking, first of all. Don't hope. You will make it happen. And then he said, here's how I can help you. I know X, Y, Z, and I'll connect you to those people. And then he said to me, I want you to come back and tell me, give me an update on all these things we talked about. So almost like homework. And he said, when you update me on this, I link you to this person. He has the network that I need. So that has been very helpful and beneficial for me because he's the chief technology officer of his organization. And his outlook, his perspective of life, what is possible is big, it's huge. And I like that kind of challenge. I like exposing myself to people like that. And then if I can add one more, Taiwo, and I'm not trying to be spiritual. I really held myself back because Benga has done it, Mr. Nicholas has done it, but we're in church. You just can't help it. And this one's going to sound so, I don't know if it's cheesy, but the truth is Jesus is my mentor. And I'll give you a tangible because I like being practical. Here's what I mean by that. I looked at his leadership style because he models everything. He models how we ought to live in every way. I looked at his leadership style, and one thing that stood out to me was he came to serve. He didn't come to take, he didn't come to be served, he came to serve. So this happened maybe last academic year or the year before. I held on to that mentality. I thought, okay, how can I serve my students? It changes the way you approach your work. How can I serve my students? How can I serve my director? How can I serve my colleagues? So my mindset became, what are the new things? What are the things I can improve and introduce that will help my students succeed? Because if they succeed, you've succeeded automatically. Because then when they're shining, they look back, oh, what's that profile? They went to the Institute of Global Prosperity. Onya was the program leader. So helping people, that was his strategy. It was like, Peter, I'm going to wash your leg, and I want you to do the same thing. I want you to have that same mindset. So that's sort of, I draw like from how he's like my pattern man. What's he doing? That's what I want to copy.
Fantastic. That is so profound. I don't know whether David or Minister Nicholas wants to add anything else to that.
Yeah, I can kind of touch on what where she stopped. And I was going to say that first, mentorship comes and go. There could be season in your life. You know, you might have, and this is me coming from the place of how I have been able to have some mentors in my life. Okay, thanks. So I mentioned earlier on that I had some mentors during my uni days, and whilst during my career, I've also had some mentors. So the current mentor I have is not the one I started with whilst I started my career. They come and go. It's important that we know that. Just to touch on, Jesus being the mentor, using Jesus as our template. When you look at the life of David in some season, he had a mentor who is a person of soul. That mentor came and then left. Within that also space, he had a mentor who is a person of Saul's son. What's his name? Jonathan. So what I'm saying is you can have more than one mentor that would help you navigate through life, that will help you find purpose, that would direct your paths. However, if you don't have one now, start praying that God brings you mentor, a purposeful one, because there are many people out there that might want to take advantage. And when God brings them over to you, whatever they ask you to do, please do. And I would say this because I've had the privilege and the opportunity to mentor some people. And me, I also have my own mentor. And I can see the difference between those that take instructions and those that do not. And I'll give you a particular example. I gave some instructions to two people to do some certain things. One took it, went with it, and all the things that they were meant to get, they got. And not just that, they got extra. And the other person didn't even bother. And I'm not trying to say the other person, again, they might have reasons for why they didn't listen or do what I asked them to do. But it's important that you leverage on the mentor that God is bringing you away in each season. And lastly, and that's why God is important in all that we do, that we allow the Spirit to lead us. Because sometimes your mentor might not be in person. Your mentor might be someone you just follow online. Apart from me having a physical mentor, I also have mentors I follow online. That if I'm having some challenges in life, I need some answers, I just try and type in, what do you do? I'll put your name beside it, and it comes up. An example would be Dr. Miles Moran. So it's just me trying to tell you that, listen, you could have multiple mentors that governs, help you, shape you to become a better version of yourself.
Fantastic. Thank you, David. Did you?
I think when people mention Jesus, you have to keep going. Jesus is the ultimate mentor. Yeah. But just to say, a cheap mentor, I will always say the cheapest mentor is your manager. That's my point of view. That's the cheapest one. Now, of course, God will bring you with relationships. For me personally, I would say my own mentors, the people that have helped me the most, has been my managers. It may just be me, but they've dragged me through things that I've been through, both in Nigeria, I would say both in the night where I come from originally, but both there, they fought battles for me because they felt they had a connection with me, both there and both here. So for me, and I always, now of course, you can go out, and I have other ones, even online. There are people that don't even know sometimes that they are my mentor, and I would say that because I see what I want in them, so I watch how they talk. So he's saying this thing and it's clear, but if I'm saying it, I don't feel it's that clear. So I watch how they use words, how they use language. I mean, one of them is my colleague, well, a bit senior, but my colleague, we report both today. But the way he talks, the way I watch him, the way he shows his slide, this is something and I hang around him a lot, and you can do that as well. I think Minga said that. But I always say one of your cheapest, place to get a mentor is just, honor your line manager. You can learn a lot from them.
That is so profound. There was a word Minister Nicholas dropped at the end there, honor. And I think sometimes we take that out of the context of the workplace. A card to say happy birthday to a manager that, maybe I spent the last 18 months annoying you, might be the difference between that relationship evolving into something more positive. Because you take the time to go out of your way. I think it was Pastor Shola that was sharing over at Summer Blast about how he had this really difficult line manager. And, when it came to the manager's birthday, he kind of showered the person with gifts. And they were like, why are you doing this? And God turned it around in such a way that within the matter of a few months, that person was out and he was offered the job of the person that sort of sat and sort of made him very miserable. So I say all of that to say that, there's a level of spirituality to this. There's a level of praying, but there's also a level of, sensibility and looking at what other people have done that's so profound that could help to really move the dial and change things. Okay, so we're going to move on now to the Q&A. So if there are any questions in the room, you can signify and we can take the questions. If the questions online as well, please let us know and we'll take those questions as well. There's a question for David. It says, Mr. Gbenga, thank you for your time. Can you please explain or share the tips as regards to how you manage your time with academics, volunteering, your part-time job, and some of the things that you shared when you did your session? Because it's not easy.
Yes, that's a very good question, very, very valid question. Because I know a lot of people kind of struggle in that space. So, when I was doing my master's, in those days you had to be in class, physical, we don't do online in those days. So today now you do online, it's much, much easier, much flexible now. But then you had to be in class. It was difficult, it was challenging because I was working in a prison at that time. I do a psychological support for prisoners at Chelmsford prison at that time. So I work nights and finish in the morning, go straight home, shower, straight, and I was driving at that time. So straight into, so it was easy for me to move around, straight into lecture. Sometimes I sleep while I was while in class. And I'm not saying you should sleep. What I'm trying to say is it's challenging. I need to put some extra time to speak with my colleagues so that I could fill in the gap on things I've missed. So what helped me was I was friendly. I see myself as a people's person. So so just to give you a bit of a context. So we had me and my brother and a friend of ours, we had 2-bedroom flat that we're living at that time in Thamesmead. And during lunchtime, I would just get my friends to come and then we will cook and we eat. Whilst we're doing that, I would just take one of them to our study place and start telling me the things that I missed. And that was how I've been able to kind of fill in the gap when sometimes I was unable to attend lectures. Again, guys, your template is different from mine. please do not follow my footsteps. It might be something that you need, it might be something different, but these are the practical aspects of the step I took. And whilst working, doing my master's, volunteering, I volunteer twice a week at Wichington NHS Hospital at that time as a recruitment assistant. I would start at 10 and then finish at 3. And those days I don't work. And that was how I've been able to manage. On top of that, I was also an usher at my church. So it was really packed Monday to Sunday for a year and some couple of months. The most challenging part of my journey was during the time I had to write my dissertation. It was really tough. I didn't want to stop work because, if you don't work, you don't get paid. But God was good because it was a night shift. I would take my laptop to work and I'll start doing my dissertation. That was how I was being able to journey through those times. I hope that helped you and answers your question.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that, David. And thank you to the person who asked that question. I want to come back to the point around visibility. Please, as I said, if you have questions in the room, let us know. Okay, thank you. I can see one already. I'll take this point on visibility and then we'll come and take your question. And I think I want to bring Pastor Emi in as well on this particular point around visibility, because I think Minister Nicholas mentioned it earlier about, while studying, you're sort of in that team, and it's common here, they sort of break you out into teams, and you just want to be in your team and just get your work done. You don't want anyone to sort of, you don't want to be, certainly my experience, I didn't want to be the focus of attention. But it's important to be visible, both in the context of study and also in the context of career. I think for me personally, if I speak about this visibility point and what makes it really poignant is, if I think back to whilst I was studying, I've always been very academic. So I've always been in sort of the front of the pack, it's always been that way. And I remember this particular course I was studying, I think I spoke to a mentor or maybe somebody else in my study group. And I said to the person, I said, I want to finish this course with a first class. And they said, how do you intend to do that? And then I said, okay. And I went to speak to the program director. And I said, what do I need to do to get a first class degree? And then they reeled off all of these things. And then they said something along the lines of, but why are you thinking about that? You've got a child. It's probably not the right thing for you to do. You should just think about finishing this course and going home. And if there's one thing, the people that know me very well, no, don't give me a challenge. You can do anything, but don't tell me I can't do something, because then you've literally challenged me. And so for me, that was it. I was like, what's the big deal? I say all of that to say, and I said, what's the big deal? What does it mean to not get this, to be able to get this first class? What do I have to do? And I went, I did the homework, and the rest, as they say, is history. But I say all of that to come back onto this visibility point, because up until the point when I stepped up to that program director and said, what does it take to get a first class degree in this place? I don't think he even knew that I existed or that I was on the course. And he must have looked at me and thought, who's this tiny little girl that's, come to ask me the question? So it's important to be visible, but also to be clear in terms of what you want, and making the people that are in the rooms that are going to make the decisions about you getting what you want aware that that's what you want. I think that's the point I wanted to get to with the visibility. Because if people don't know, they're not going to see a random name and just be like, yeah, we're going to give that person the next director job. it needs to be someone that's known. They need to know, and that's where visibility comes into play. So I want to hear your thoughts in terms of your experience around being visible. What are some of the tips or the skills that you've used to be more visible, whether that's in a place of study or at work? I'll come to you first, Mr. Nicholas.
Sorry. So being visible, I think, I would say it's one of the areas that I think I've improved, but it's something that, because some people, by temperament, they like, so to speak, be behind the scene. I think everybody needs to be pushed in front of the scene, but people like to be behind the scene because it takes an effort. You need to be intentional, but also there's a bit of pressure in it. But there's one of the things that, my line manager always says something. Sometimes when we're not there, and because she then, during appraisal, she then goes to our own manager to try to say, okay, these people, we need to promote them. And there are some people in the team who are saying, who is this? What do they do? And when people start to question who you are and what you do, it's because you are not visible. Because they can't see you in the organization and what you do. And when people can't see people, and then your manager is coming and saying, this person deserves a star. And they are saying, sorry, what did this person do? My own, my employee direct report, I'm not giving the person a star, but you are giving yours a star. Why? I don't know this person. What does he do here? And she keeps telling us something that, you need to be visible in the organization. People need to know. I know, IT, maybe technology, might be something that is not usually most core of any business. But, and most people count it as a cost center or a back-end services or something. But there is a way you can, and that's why I like her a lot. There's a way she tries to package us, almost as a, not almost, but as a business enhancing service, as a critical business service, so that when people think about the organization, they are thinking about value, they are thinking about technology, they are thinking about security, they are thinking that because we are value deliverers. I would say one of the things that helped in that place is packaging yourself or packaging ourselves in such a way to align with the criticality of the business. Now, I will see how I can phrase that very well. Because I think one of the ways you can be visible is to make what you are doing relevant to where you are. If what you are doing people don't think is important, then you are going to struggle for visibility. And I'm not saying you have to crash things, not by lowering everybody's voice. Media team is there, okay, fine. And that's not what I was talking about. But there is a way you could package yourself as a value add. That when people think about, value, they think about you, and that in itself makes you someone that, they think when they come to, they get value from. I think that's what I try to do. What I've learned to do, not just about, some people is, LinkedIn. It's somewhere I'm pushing myself to be better in LinkedIn, actually, because I think that is also a cheap place you can actually increase your profile. Absolutely. Now, conferences, attending conferences, speaking at conferences, some of those I've done, some of those I want to keep doing, because those things take you out of your comfort zone. And anything that is taking you out of your comfort zone, believe me, is good for you. Yeah. If it takes you out of your comfort zone, it might not be comfortable, but it is good. If you are in your comfort zone, you are too comfortable. Just know it. You're too comfortable for your success. Once you take that out of your comfort zone, be happy, rejoice. It means that you are growing. And for me, I think that's why I'm taking the challenge, speaking to audiences, going to conferences, security conferences. Sometimes you think, why? Sorry, I'm taking so much time. Because there's a core I think I've not hit yet. I go to conferences, and it's as if I think that people know more than I want to share. And that's the danger, when you think that you don't have enough to offer. And that's why some people are not visible. It's fear, thinking that people know more than they do, or that they are not going to do well in what they are doing. Believe me, most things that you are going to say, people either don't know them, or if they know them, they will agree with you, and they are happy to be reminded about those things. So put the pressure off yourself in being visible. Just take that bold step to be visible. I will say lastly, my master's, my MBA is one of the ways that I think my visibility, it helped me to be visible. When I didn't want to pay a dime for that MBA, and I wanted the organization to sponsor an MBA of almost 40 or 50K. What helped me was that they knew me. I've been visible enough for them to know who is this person. The organization didn't question why they should spend 50K on me because they've seen that, okay, this person has added value, has brought himself as someone whose what he does adds value to the business. And because of that, it was easy for them to just say, yeah, okay, it's a lot of money, but fine, we're happy to pay. So I've said a lot of
Thank you so much for sharing that. Find your value add to critical business need. I think that's there was a point I also wanted to make when you spoke there about LinkedIn. A lot of people have a LinkedIn profile, but you do absolutely nothing with it. That is not going to help your visibility. He talked there about conferences and attending, conferences and all of these things. There are logarithms on LinkedIn that look at your network. So for example, if you've been on there for years and you've not added any people, you've not done anything, it's not going to connect people behind the scenes to you. So think about your network on LinkedIn. Think about the session today, for example. Even if it's 5 sentences you post on there with a picture saying, look where I attended, where I was, look how I spent my Saturday morning. And I'll tell you that this actually works. Because there was a career thing I attended during COVID. I was in my kitchen and I took a photo of myself and I posted it and I said, this is what I'm doing with my Saturday morning. I'm engaged, I'm learning. And guess what my colleagues were talking about at work on Monday morning? That post. So you'd be surprised at how some of the little things can be the things that change your career, connect you with the people that will really make a difference and help you find that next job, find that promotion and just be the best that you can. I'm conscious of time. I don't know whether, Onya, David, there's anything you want to add in sort of 30 seconds on visibility?
Yes, I would quickly touch on CV application. I think, Pasemi, if you could permit us, we should have a session on CV creation, learning, interviewing skills, because I've seen this let people down. I can see I've sat in many panels and I can tell that this person can do the job, but the skill to be able to kind of frame or articulate how they will do the job is just not there. Apart from you, like Mr. Nicholas said, that yes, you've done the masters, you've learned from your manager, you've acquired all the skills and experiences. How do you then come and convince your panel to tell them that you can actually do the job? But that's another thing. So, in addition to that, how can you formalize your CVs? Because I've seen many people send me CVs, and I've seen CVs a lot in my life. And I can tell this person, if only we've been using branding, rebranding, if only they can just take this out, add this, add that, their CV will be very attractive. So I would give some advice. If you need some skills or if you need to begin to do some research on how you can package your CV, make it look punchy, make it look attractive, please do so. There are many materials online that you can tap into. And if you need to speak to me, please, I'm more than happy to advise. And lastly, interviewing skills. It is imperative that you go and learn and work on this. It could be frustrating if you keep going and your skills and how you articulate yourself is just not there. It could be daunting, and I've seen many people just say, I'm giving up. I'm just going to do something different. Don't give up. Just know where the gaps are and fill them in. If it is for you to go and sit down, and I'll give you a tip. There was a time in my life where I'm trying to transition, and it was a senior role, but it's like, I'm just applying, go for the interview, nothing. I was just eating a brick of wall. So I started doing some research. I went on YouTube, I went lots of materials, seeing how you should answer, and I learned so many techniques on how you can break down interviewing questions, scenarios, give scenarios, and even talk more that would make any panel just say, that person is exceptional. And I'll tell you one thing, a lot of people might be good as you, they can do the job as you, but there's one thing, that would make you stand out is the way you sell yourself and make yourself visible at the interview. And the panel said, no, this person's the person we're giving because why? You went ahead and nailed it. And lastly, Minister Nicola said something which was very vital, that we just don't want to know the organization. We want to know the strategy. We want to know more. We want to do some research about the organization that we're about to take our next career into. So do your research. Talk about the strategy that the team or the directorate that you want to get the job into are planning on implementing. Talk about it. Share your experience on how you can come and help them achieve some of the strategy. And I will leave it as that.
Thank you so much, David. I'm going to bring Pastor Emmy in. Pastor Emmy is a top-notch, human resources business partner. Yes, there are a few questions. I'm going to come to that. There are a few questions on Zoom as well. There's quite a few. But I want to just quickly bring Pastor Emmy in on the point around being exceptional. I know that you sit in a lot of panels when it comes to how decisions are made, whether that's from a recruitment perspective, from a pay, performance perspective as well. But I just want you to speak to that point around being exceptional. What does exceptional look like? And this is a senior, HR business partner, someone who sits in the rooms where decisions are made when it comes to talent, when it comes to retention. What does exceptional look like for you?
Thank you, Taiwo, and thank you, panelists, for all of your contributions so far. It's been brilliant. Exceptional. Whenever you go into a role, there's usually a job description that you're meant to walk to. And there's normally this one sentence at the end of that job description that tells you that this list of responsibilities is not exhaustive. There's a whole world of things that they can ask you to do. And sometimes they might ask you to do those things, and at some other times they were not going to ask you to do any of those things. You may not even end up doing as much as you have on the job description. But what you need to be asking yourself every day or every week or every month that you're getting up to go to work is, what additional thing can you contribute in this role? How can you go above and beyond what's required of you in the job? Some people try to cut out of even what's required of them in the job. Some people try to do less. Sometimes people are thinking, I don't have so much work to do. I'm just going to go on YouTube or do some browsing or be on my phone. No. Use that time to research what other people may be doing in your field and ask yourself how you can introduce that piece of work into that organization to give them something they don't already have. Because once you start doing above and beyond what everybody else is doing, you're making yourself stand out for recognition. Right? We have this scheme that we run at work. It's a reward and recognition scheme. And sometimes managers will submit an application for someone to get a reward or recognition. And when we look at it as a panel, we're kind of saying to ourselves, this person is doing their job. As far as we're concerned, they ask them to do 5 things, they're doing the 5 things. There's no reason why we need to reward this person, because this person is doing exactly what we're paying them for. But then you see some applications where you can see that this person, not only are they doing a good job of their job, but they are now doing all these other extra things that sometimes it's like nobody even sent them on that errand. But they've done something for the institution that the institution feels like we need to recognize what this person has done. And then they get that reward. They get that additional increment on their salary. They get a one-off payment. They get some, super increase on their pay. And it's because they've gone above and beyond. And I think sometimes people are having conversations with me and they're telling me, especially like Gen Z people, like, how can I get to that next role? How can I get to that next job? And I'm saying to them, the job you're currently doing, we don't think you're doing a good job of the job that you're even doing. It's like, why would we want to push you to the next job when we don't even think you're competent enough for what you're doing? So you need to nail the job you're doing and then start thinking, how can I spend this extra time I've got to do better than the job I'm currently doing? And I was going to say something about visibility because the panel have said so many wonderful things about visibility. But the one thing I just want to add in that space is sometimes you need to be able to speak up and say, and please connect this to what I've just said about being exceptional. When you're doing an exceptional job, it is easier for you to speak up and say, I want to do more. I believe I'm ready for the next role. I believe I'm ready for that promotion. I believe I'm ready for exposure to the next thing that you've got. Do you have any work that you've got that you can give to me? And people will kind of go, oh, this person, we're doing this work and we need somebody to do it. They remember you. They think about the fact that this person is already doing an exceptional job. They're already going above and beyond. They are interested in progressing. Let's bring them into this opportunity. But if you are quiet, like Minister Nicholas said, you're just walking behind the scenes and telling yourself you're doing a good job, sometimes it's not enough. You need to make those connections. You need to let your manager know that you're ready for the next level, you're ready for the next step. And sometimes it might not be a job. So you can say to your manager, is there something you want me to help you with? Right? Dr. Onya was talking about serving. You can say to your manager, is there something you'd like me to help you with? And so what will happen is that your manager will give you manager level work for you to do at your level. And once you have done that work, nobody can take that experience away from you. I say to people, as you are doing it, be updating your CV. Right? Be updating your profile, because you are now saying that you are operating at managerial level, because now you're helping your manager do their own work. Right? So your manager thinks, maybe it's free service. This person is giving me free work. Yeah, here's all my job. Do it. Don't worry. Do all the work. When it's time for promotion, you will share it in your interview that you have done this work. You go to your LinkedIn profile, you update your LinkedIn profile to say you have done all this work. And if they're looking for somebody to give a reward, well, you can present all this extra work that you've done. That is how you progress. Don't say, oh, is it because I'm black or I'm gray or I'm brown that they're giving me all this extra work? No. Say thank you very much. Collect all the extra work. Do a great job of it. Update your profile and use it to progress in your career. All right?
Wow, fantastic. So profound. Thank you so much for sharing that, Pastor Emmy. Fantastic. Okay, let's take the question in the room, and then I'll run through some of the questions online as well. Can we get a microphone in the room, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, thank you all. I found this really informative, really interesting. Thank you so much for your time. I have a number of questions, but my first question kind of like goes back to when you were presenting, David. You made the comment about mentorship and having a BAME mentor. And I wanted to ask, do you think it's imperative to have a BAME mentor, or just, can it be, a non-BAME mentor?
No, so it doesn't have to be BME mentor. Your mentor could come from any background. I did mention that during my career, I've had several mentors, and they're seasonal. Some would come and some would go. I've had BME, I've had Caucasian, I've had a lady, I've had a man. So it just you identifying your need at each career stage of your journey.
And just to be clear, that's Black and minority ethnic, just for those that don't know. That's what that acronym stands for. Sorry.
Thank you so much for that. So there's a lot of talk in society today, and especially in the workplace, in the NHS, specifically with regards to equality, diversity, and inclusion. And as leaders and as managers, how do you think we should navigate that environment and that field? Because for me, it's a case of yes, you don't want to ignore the fact that there's an issue, but you don't want to focus on it so much that you want to focus on like a resolution, really, and how you can use it to be your better self. Like Pastor said, you be the best at your job, and how that kind of supports you. And I suppose, and it's not a case of just for myself, but bringing other people along on the journey and saying, actually, for me, what I always say to my colleagues and to staff, that Mina at home is not Mina at work. And it's for people to learn the difference and how to behave in a particular manner, and that's just my take on it. But obviously, you guys are much further ahead in your careers than I am myself. But I'm just, as managers, as people who want to be managers and leaders, or just people who work within the industry, how should we navigate that, and what should our response be to that?
So let me try and paraphrase that quickly. So that the question is, as someone who is leading a diverse team, how do you manage that from the perspective of you being potentially also a diverse candidate?
Know that there's a lot of focus in society today about inclusivity, diversity, about Black Lives Matters and stuff like that. And how do we deal with that and manage that and navigate that within the workplace?
Okay.
Yeah.
Regardless of the team that you manage? Okay. So I think personally for me, and I've been blessed to work in a number of different sectors. I can't speak particularly to the NHS experience, but I can speak from my own experience and from being a senior leader in an organization. At one point, I was in a team of 12. I was the only female. I was the only sort of person of color in that team. I think a lot of the things that we've talked about today around visibility, knowing yourself, coming into the workplace with a sense of your spirituality, those are some of the things that have helped me. You know, I've had someone walk up to me at work and say, you know, what is it? What makes you tick? Like, what is it that, kind of the way I interpreted that question was, what's your joy? Because in this space, there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot going on, and you still manage to always have a smile on your face. And the first thing I said to that person is because I have Jesus, you know, and I joke about it. I say something like, you know, you need a little bit of JESUS in your life, because that for me, that's what it is. That's how I center myself. Now, if I speak from a professional perspective, there is a lot of discourse in the wider workplace around, you know, being woke and sort of turning the conversation away from the lived experience of people that look like us. And I, as a leader, I think the responsibility is on us to ensure that that conversation around our lived experiences, you know, is pervasive, that it stays. People need to hear what it feels like, whether that's for me being a senior leader in an organization. I think where I am at the moment, if I think about my team, I'm probably the only person of color in the whole team. So what does that mean for me? I don't make that a thing. I think Pastor Emi always says this about it doesn't matter. You go in and be excellent, be amazing at your job. People will listen. People will want to hear what you bring to the table. Onya, I want to bring you into this conversation because I think the educational or the education sector maybe doesn't get such a good light when it comes to this conversation as well. So maybe hear your perspective in terms of leading in that sort of equity, diversity, and inclusion space.
Okay, so for me, I think there are two things. There's that issue within our workspace, so with my colleagues, and there's also the issue with the students as well, because we have a diverse, when I mean diverse, I mean diverse cohort of students. And one of the ways that we handle issues is we call it out. So we call it out, not public, not for every single colleague. If there's an issue, we call it out within sort of the senior leadership, and then we try to brainstorm solutions to an issue. And the reason why I'm raising this issue of calling it out is because it creates awareness amongst everybody else. So for example, there was an incident to do with a black student, and there was something to do with microaggression, racism, etc. Different things came up. And one of the things that I sort of pushed for was, well, it looks like there's some ignorance here, and it needs to be addressed through education, through creating awareness, and through training. So what I did is I chased up with our EDI, so the head of EDI, I wrote to her, I asked, this is to do with students now, I asked, we have this training that helps us as staff understand how to relate in diverse teams, but the students don't have something like this. And look what we're seeing. Can we create this? She came back to me and said, well, we don't have anything. The student union might have something. And so what happened in that situation is we eventually designed a whole training program. My colleague kindly designed a whole training program that helped educate people on how to relate with others, how to be interculturally aware, how to be more inclusive, how to relate with people, because some people don't have those awareness or those skills. But I've said all of that to say we call things out regardless of whether it's a student, it's within the student's level or it's staff level. We call it out and then we address the root problems. Is it that somebody is completely ignorant? Is it that someone, it depends on what the situation is, but we try to address it through education is sort of the way that we do. And we try to build a culture in our department. I can't speak for other departments, but there is a culture in our department that really embodies EDI and being inclusive. I am also one of the only, I think I'm the only Black person in our team, and the truth is that I don't even think about it, if I'm being honest, because that culture of being inclusive is so deeply ingrained in our department. You hear it from the moment you come to do interviews. You hear it all around you. There are posters that talk about it. We have colleagues that champion EDI to ensure that that is something that we prioritize. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much. I'm conscious of time. There's a question on here that's direct. Thank you for your question. That's directed to you, Dr. Onya. It says, thank you for the academic advice. For someone whose assessments are majorly practicals with less academic writing, how best do you think they should approach succeeding at university?
So even if it's a practical assessment, there's still a criteria. It will still have, the module leader has to have some guiding criteria that they're using to evaluate your work.
Yeah.
So my advice, again, this still applies, what I said. Understand what they're asking you to do. Mm-hmm. My students, so we have my assessment, my term 2 assessment. One is written, one is practical. And the practical has marking criteria that I use, and I let the students know this is what I will be looking for in your assessment, in this group work, in this practical group work. Mm-hmm. So they can still rely on that point that I made, and you can still seek out others that have accomplished what you're trying to accomplish and ask them how they succeeded in that thing. It's really, I think one salient theme here is mentorship. Seeking somebody else that has done it and asking, how did they succeed in that lab work? What do you do that makes your lab so successful? Mm-hmm. My brothers are engineers, and they talk about lab or doing things in the lab. Well, they had to have had some professor that was profound, that was really good at what he does, that they have seen and they're able to learn from. So I think the advice still applies, whether it's a practical piece of work or whether you're writing an essay.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And there's a question for David as well. It said, you spoke there a bit about the mental health. I think it was one of the roles that you did early on. But they're asking, whether there's any tips or suggestions that you can give to someone considering coming to the UK to take up a career in mental health.
Definitely it's not working. Okay. So mental health is wide, and there is so many spectrum when we are talking about mental health. So it depends on the routes that you are looking to dive into. So some you need to be qualified to be able to manage or work as a mental health professional. Some you need to just do some certification, some training that will then allow you to work in that space. So you need to know what aspect you would like to dive into and how far you want to go deep when mental health is concerned. You might start with having that certification, i.e. Just get some training for some couple of months, put your foot in becoming a mental health support or mental health advisor. And as you go in, if that's your desire, if that's your aim, you can then look at how can I then get further qualification in, let's say, degree to become a mental health practitioner, or level 5 NVQ to manage a mental health patient or services. So, like I said, it's huge. And if you need more information, I'm more than happy to catch up with you and then give you some further advice if that's okay.
Fantastic. That is so profound. I'll take one more question from online. Just checking if there's any questions in the room. Okay, fantastic. So, yeah, awesome.
Hi there. It's been a great session. I think I came here looking. I'm kind of at a bit of a crossroad at the moment with opportunities that I've been presented with. So I was just wondering, once you've kind of put all these things into practice and it's worked almost too well, how do you, if you've got conflict, I call it conflicting opportunities, how would you choose? How would you, what helps you to make good decisions?
So when you say conflicting opportunities, you mean conflicting to where you are going? Because I think one of the things that is always important in a career or in a direction is where you're heading, first of all. Because if you don't know where you are going, anywhere leads anywhere. Because everywhere. So the question is, where do you see yourself in the next 2 years? Where 5 years? Where 10 years? I mean, I start seeing myself as a CIO, CEO, and is beginning to influence some of the things that I'm doing. If I just see myself as a CISO, which I am, which is with like a Chief Information Security Officer, which is just security, that's absolutely fine. There are CEOs that are doing fantastic well. They're well known. They're earning. They're speaking. Absolutely, it's a career path. I would just focus on that. Just need to develop my security skills well, networking that people in that line. But if I'm thinking of a CEO, actually, that's a different portfolio. I will be responsible for managing a CISO, which is what I will be. Also managing the person's manager, which is the CIO, which I report to. So that I'm managing other business unit. Then my focus can't be security. It has to be for it now, but then I need to start increasing my breadth to be able to understand the business and what's happening, finances, do all of those things. So that's because I know where I want to end up. I know because that's where I'm ended. So, and that could change per time. Right now it could be that I just want to be a CISO. But then after a while, maybe the next, because 2 years, 3 years goal, CISO, I'm getting to the 3 years, then actually I'm reviewing the goal. Okay, now my capacity is large enough. I think I want to be a CEO. And that's fine. We should always be doing that, reviewing that. So I think that's what you need to look at. Where do I want to get in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years? Which of these looks like is getting me closer? Now, of course, we would always not, we're believers here, and hopefully most, so prayer and all of that is not going to be, we're not going to put that, that's always going to be there because jobs that may look like they're headed somewhere, they might close shop the next month that they have been acquired as we have to let you go. So that trumps everything else. But after you've done that, it's now what we are talking about. So where is it heading? Does it agree with where I'm going? If it does, counsel. Also, talk to people. Don't try to do it by yourself. Nobody needs to be a Superman. There's no reason for that. Ask counsel. I'm considering this and all that. A word from one person can change your mind about the whole thing, about what you need to be doing. So talking to people, I have these opportunities, what do you think? They will tell you something that might spark something in you. So by the time you combine those things, where am I heading? Counsel from people, counsel from God, and all of those things together. At some point, you get direction of where to go. And that's where you want to do with those opportunities.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I hope that answers your question. Awesome.
Yes,
Do we have any other questions in the room? Fantastic. Okay. There's a question online. It says, can you share any ideas on what to do or how to move up quickly from entry-level roles to middle and then senior management? So can you share any ideas on what to do on how to move up quickly from entry-level roles to middle and then senior management? I think we've spoken at length about some of those strategies and career tips. I think from a personal perspective, we generally have a mindset of, I want to be something yesterday. And these things take time. So all of the people you sit here, this is 18 years of cyber experience, this is 15 plus years of program management. Onya's got, I'm sure, about 15 years. David is probably 15, 18 years in all of their different career spheres. So it doesn't happen at a flash. It takes time. It takes careful planning. You know, I think we had a career conversation a few weeks or a couple of months ago, and you know, one of the questions Pastor Emmy was asking, I answered by saying, you know, I had this Excel spreadsheet at a particular point in time in my life when I was job hunting, where I wrote every single job I'd applied for, the organization I'd applied for it, the date, and their response. And, you know, that spreadsheet was the length of denial in the amount of no's that I had on there. And I remember walking into an interview and saying to the person that was interviewing me that, you know, you're number 100 and whatever in the organizations that I've applied for in the last however many weeks. And they were so impressed that I put so much focus and dedication to all of the rejections that I'd received. Now, I say all of that to say that, you know, when you see success stories like this, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of sweat and tears behind it as well. There's a lot of no's, you know, but it doesn't make you. The no's don't make you. You know, the way I've sort of, I started to see my career earlier on was that God needs to use this to tell a story. Because anywhere I go and I tell my story, people are always in awe. And I know that that's not me. It's what God wanted to, it's what God still wants to be the story because He's still working on it. So I say all of that to say, you know what your story is, you know what your journey is, and you know what God wants you to be, and you know the lives that God wants you to transform by telling your story. So let God mold you and shape you, and take the time to grow. It takes time to grow. I don't know whether you have anything else you want to add to that question in terms of how to move from sort of entry level to middle management to senior management quickly.
Sure, thanks, Taiwo. So there are many ways in which, you know, you can go about doing that. I'm not going to dwell on what Taiwo said. So if you think you're ready for the next step and the doors are not opening, try and check if there's any gap in your skills. And then you can start doing like shadowing opportunity within your organization. If you've had several no's, use the power of feedbacks. It's important. Be intentional about it. If they're telling you, no, we don't give feedback, trust me, it's a lie. Copy in, do some research, check who the director is, copy in the manager, copy the director and say, I need a reply. And the rationale, the reasons why you need a reply. And this is what I do. They'll come back to me to say, unfortunately, due to the amount of application received, we can't give you feedback. I don't take that. What I do is I send the director, I find out who if the director is struggling, I try not to give me the information. I check who the CEO is, I link my rationale with their values, and they start shaking. So they give me feedback. And these are the things that helped me to build myself to step further. I hope that helps.
It's so profound. Thank you for sharing that, David. You know, go one step, go over and above. I think we're going to bring Pastor Amy in as well to share a bit more on this
Yeah,
particular
so,
question.
I mean, if somebody wants to move quickly up the line, I think there are 4 or 5 things that you can do, right? And we've talked about this in different ways. So I think the first one is that you need to deliver very well whatever job you're doing, because your job needs to be able to speak for you. So I think that's the first thing. If you're doing a job, do it very well. I think Benga just attested to the second thing. Make sure you've got the right qualifications, certifications, and the paperwork to kind of back up whatever level you want to move to in your career. I think number 3 that I'll refer to is relationships, right? Relationships are very, very important. You know, if your relationships are not right, even if you are qualified for a role, somebody can actually block you from getting it. So you need to have the right relationships to be able to move. And sometimes you might have been in the job for 2 years, and somebody can just move you to the next level because the right relationship is in place. So relationships are important. And then it's really about having the boldness and the courage to take the next step. Some people, you know, I've been mentoring somebody for a few months now, and then in our last meeting, I kind of said to the person, so remind me, you know, how long have you been on this particular level? And the person was like 5, 6 years. I said, no, just go and apply for a job on the next level. I said, look, you've spent long enough here already. You know, these conversations we're having where you're thinking, I want to get it. I said, no. You've already spent 5 or 6 years. You've probably already conquered this level. You need to go and apply for the next level. And there was something David said when he was speaking, which is that, you know, if you spend 2 or 3 years in a particular level and you're comfortable and confident, you can actually move to the next level. Some people want to spend 5 years there before they move to the next level. You know, my latest boss came and said anybody that has spent more than 5 years at a particular level is almost like a loser or something like that, you know. And so, or even spend more than 5 years in an organization is a loser. Somebody who has spent like 60 years in the organization was in the room and was like, are you calling me a loser? And I was like, oh, I think I've stepped on that person's toes. But he was like, look, after a certain period of time, you need to shift gear so that you can go to a new environment, learn something new, engage something new. And so the 5th thing that I want to say on the back of being bold and courageous and just taking that step, right? I said to the person, just go and apply for the next job. Even if you don't get the job, but you get, number one, if they shortlist you for the interview, if you are shortlisted, what the employer is saying is that they believe that you can do the job. If they don't believe it, they won't shortlist you. So if you get shortlisted, you need to pat yourself on the back that, at least somebody feels like I'm at this level. And if you go for the interview and you don't get the job, still pat yourself at the back. Sometimes you don't get a job, not because you can't do the job, like Bingo or David was saying, but because there might even be somebody there who is just slightly better, slightly more articulate. Something has happened in the interview that has meant this person has got it, not you. So you need to be courageous to just go for it. But the final thing I want to say is something scriptural. Time and chance happen to them all. You know, you want to believe God for favor. You know, because sometimes breaking through to that next level is not because you are better than the other people in the room. You know, sometimes time and chance does happen to you. You know, I took on one job where the shift for me was almost like 10 grand. And when I got in there, the person that I was meant to manage had applied for the job and didn't get it. You know, so you can imagine the sensitivity around that, right? But I think if you latch onto those 5 things, you can definitely move from one level to the next, right? And I hope, you know, you remember the 5 things. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Pastor Amy. We don't have any more questions in the room or on Zoom, so I think we can start to wrap up the session for today. We're going to launch a poll for those online. So please, we crave your indulgence to give us 5 minutes to just complete the poll. And then I'm going to just invite Pastor Emi over for some closing comments and to actually thank the people in the room. If you don't know, you're one of a kind. This is the first time ever that we've run S.A.B.U in person. So the fact that you're here, you're in the room, and you're being a part of this session today makes you unique and special. And to those joining online as well, this is the first time ever that we've run S.A.B.U 6.0 online. So you're unique and you're special, and we thank you as well for being a part of the session this morning. I'm going to hand over to Pastor Emi actually to maybe come and close us out with some words. Tell us a bit more about the church as well, and the vision for reaching out to the community.
All right, so thank you everyone in the room. Like Taiwo said, this is historic. You know, this is the first time that we are having S.A.B.U, and we decided I wanted to bring people in person just to engage, and then we can stream it from here. So thank you so much for honoring our invitation and coming. And it's going to help us to think about how we run a hybrid S.A.B.U in the future and what we need to do differently to kind of get people here and get people online as well. And I know that there are people joining us from as far as Scotland today. So for everyone that is joining online, thank you for also joining and being a part of the session. And please do make sure that you leave feedback, not just on the poll, but also write feedback in the chat. I want to say thank you to the panelists. This is not their first time. In fact, Dr. Oni has done 6 S.A.B.Us now, and so has Taiwo, our convener and anchor for all of the S.A.B.Us, and Mr. Debi has been on all of them, I think, as well, actually, as our recruitment specialist, because I know that a lot of times when people are thinking about transitioning, it's like, okay, how do we overcome this recruitment thing that is happening in the UK? What are the secrets that we need to know around recruitment? And so I want to say thank you to our panelists for being there over the years and for supporting this seminar. Again, thank you for everyone in the room. Our desire is to see people succeed. All right, I've seen a lot of people struggle, whether it's mentoring or counseling, trying to support people around the United Kingdom. And I think S.A.B.U is something that we're going to continue to do. We're going to make it better. We're going to make it bigger. We're going to reach even more people because there are a lot of people who need the insights that we're sharing. And, we've had previous sessions in the past. We've had different speakers over the years, and those sessions are actually on our YouTube channel. So if you want to go hear other speakers who have come from different sectors and different experiences, you can do that as well. I want to encourage everyone to do that. One of the things we've heard about today is around networking and building relationships. And I want to encourage you to do that. Go and find people in your space, in your own context, in your own local context, in your own environment that you can build connections with. If you have a faith community, you can go and find people in that faith community. In fact, let me tell you something crazy that I did. I once went for an interview. In fact, 2 rounds of interviews. I didn't get the job. But my experience with the chair of the panel was so good that I went to look for the chair of the panel after the interview and got that person to be a mentor for a time. Right? And that person gave me their time to kind of talk me through how I can move from where I am to the next level that I need to get to. Even though I didn't get the job, I was like, okay, let's even forget the job. How can this person mentor me? Because I had such a good vibe with this person, and I don't want the relationship to end at interview. So there are people that you really need to go and find, and need to connect to. And people buzz me on LinkedIn and say, can I talk to you? And I'm like, yeah, call me. This is my number. And I give them hours, when I have time to talk to them and help them progress. So there are people that would give you space and time and help you to just make that shift. So go and find people, put to practice the things that you've heard today. And I'm sure that one of these days, maybe you're going to be the person that we're going to invite to talk to other people about how you've succeeded, and how you've, risen up the ranks and are now at that director level kind of doing things. So we're all on LinkedIn. You can connect to us on LinkedIn. And as a church, we actually meet in this facility in Charlton in London on Sundays, and we have online meetings as well. And so if you do not have a church family you call home, we invite you to be a part of our church family. And I'm sure that the media guys will put details on the screen and things like that for how you can connect with us. But we are going to keep doing this. And Mr. Debi was saying it would be good for us to have a more career-specific session where we can do CVs and interview skills and things like that. So I'm sure we are going to cook up another career enhancement session.
Actually, there was a question online as well. Someone said, will the organizers be interested in putting together a community that provides mentoring opportunities for people that might need this as a follow-up or a support system for people that attend S.A.B.U or might need more help and support?
That's a nice one. I think S.A.B.U 2021, we said we're going to create something, but we need somebody that we're going to put on the business of creating it. Because I think last year or 18 months ago, we said we're going to create a community for people, and maybe we need to. So yes, we will look into it. We will look into it. I think we can maybe set something up and encourage people as well. So
Fantastic.
yes.
I just want to read some of the feedback.
Okay.
I want to give a shout out to ID Ogidi. You've been one of the most engaged people on the session today, so thank you. She said, thank you so much. God bless all of our panelists. Oyewole Oyediran says, I'm joining from Wales as I'm a student at the University of South Wales, and this program has really stirred a lot in me, and I'm sure in a few years from now, I will be making a reference to this program.
Come on.
Amen.
Amen to that.
Heidi says,
Go
thank you,
and shine.
Kingswood London. Yes, go and shine and succeed.
Go and get the distinction.
Thank you, Kingswood London, for this event. Thank you, Pastor Emmy. God bless you.
Oh, amen.
Olayinka Filaka says, huge clap and thumbs up
Thank
for
you
the
so
session.
much.
So thank
for
you
all
so
of the
much,
feedback,
everyone.
It's been great having you here.
Yes. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and yeah, God bless you. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you to our wonderful, esteemed panelists.